across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, it's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Peter Cardwell. This is Talk Breakfast in for Mark Dolan this weekend, and loads to talk about this Sunday morning. I want to hear from you about all your opinions on the big top stories, including Andy Burnham under yet more pressure because of Friday night's ludicrous alert to tell us to stop buying barbecues. Was that a good use of the emergency alert system? Well, obviously the answer is no, but clearly people still very angry about that. And if you want to contact us about it and tell us your experience on Friday night around 7 o'clock, please do. Also, the Liberal Wokarati backing the Prime Minister's plan to house asylum seekers in affluent postcodes. Yes, of course, the boat people should go and live in nice areas, but as long as it's not mine, as long as it's not the area that I live in with my, nice muesli eating, granola central, free-range children and all the rest of it. They don't want their matcha latte to be stolen by a boat person. Lots about that as well. We'll talk about all of that. Also, water firms to charge more in droughts. Is that fair? What do you think about that? I don't know about you. My water bill has gone up 100% in the 5 years I've lived in the flat that I live in. Lots to discuss on all of that. I'd love to hear from you on the issues to do with the mega dinghies as well, sent via British port, the National Crime Agency, beginning global investigations into that. Reform UK as well plans £50 billion a year welfare cuts. Are you concerned about that if you're in receipt of welfare, or maybe you actually think this is a good idea because the bill is out of control? Andy Burnham has reacted to Jason Arday's death as well. He says it's a moment to reflect. Why didn't he say the same thing about Anne Widdecombe's death, for example, or Charlie Kirk's, or many of the other tragedies that have been there? Also, more than 230 British people have their mobile phones nicked every day. One place is the worst. We'll reveal where that is. Loads to discuss this morning. Lots of top guests and lots of great discussion. Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 7222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram at CardwellPeter. You can send me a voice note as well. We'll get as many of those on the air as we can. You pop them through on WhatsApp. Tech Up Dave listens to them and then we play them out. We will also have lots of WhatsApp text messages. You can send those through, and you can give me a ring, all on the main number 0344 499 1000. Loads to discuss between now and 10. Stay with us here on Talk Breakfast. Well, I'm delighted to say this morning I am in the company of Linda Juberlee, the journalist and commentator. Great to see you with us, Linda. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad, actually. It looks like a lovely day ahead of us, and it's still very cool, so I'm happy to be up early.
It's good. It seems to be just slightly, where we are in the south of England anyway, in London, seems to be just cooling down ever so slightly. My housemate, my lodger, has very kindly lent me her fan as well, so I'm a fan of that. She's gone away for a day or two, so that's good that I get her fan anyway. Linda, where were you at 7 o'clock on Friday night when this alert went off?
I was standing in my kitchen and suddenly I heard this very strange noise I'd never heard before. And I thought, oh my goodness, what is that? And I looked down and found it was this alert for the extreme fire conditions. And I was mildly surprised that it should be used for that purpose, but not too distressed, I guess.
It's interesting what so many people are saying. On the Mail on Sunday this morning, Burnham barbecue phone alert sparks chaos. 999 swamped with calls. Drivers career across motorways as the siren blares. The Conservatives accusing the Prime Minister and crying wolf. A risk for misusing system meant for imminent threats. I mean, don't buy a barbecue and don't start a wildfire. I'm not sure that's the best use of this system. What do you think?
No, I don't think so, because I remember when it was introduced and they warned us all that mid-afternoon, I think it was a Sunday, we'd hear this alert. It wasn't about anything specifically. It was to get us used to the idea.
Testing the system, wasn't it? Yeah.
So I remember that very, very clearly, and I thought, actually, that's a good idea. But to use it for this purpose, I know that we're in a very serious situation at the moment, but for you to use it for this purpose, I think is completely wrong. I mean, in fact, I don't really understand why they didn't bring in the banning on the temporary barbecue tinfoil trays weeks ago.
Yes.
It's completely obvious that should have happened.
And you can still buy them because, I mean, someone messaged in yesterday and said they'd seen one in a pound shop and that they're still available. So the ban clearly isn't working. They haven't been taken off the shelves. Also, we had another flip-flop from Andy Burnham because we had, on Thursday, he said, I'm encouraging, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, I can't remember, said, I'm encouraging supermarkets not to sell these disposable barbecues, and then on Friday said no, there's a ban, so a change in that as well. And if they are so risky, well, you know, do we need a national alert to tell us that? I mean, it's fairly obvious, is it not?
And I think that flip-flopping around with your language is a really big problem.
He does it a lot, doesn't he? He does it. I don't know about you. I've noticed this. I mean, the other one, which is much more serious, I would argue, is PC Andrew Harper's family. They're absolutely distressed by the whole story, the ongoing saga about whether the two people convicted of manslaughter are going to be freed from prison or not. And Andy Burnham says, I'll sort it. Then he says, oh, it might not be possible. Oh, it probably is possible. Oh, I'll get the Justice Secretary to sort it out.
Or kind of, I will be doing my best. That's such a strange choice of words for a Prime Minister to use. And you're right.
It reminds me a little bit of, I don't know if you know the famous quote, which I won't repeat at 6 from Sean Connery in The Rock. Are you familiar with this? He says, let's just say it starts with losers always whine about their best, about doing their best, which is, and then there's a line which is not appropriate to for me to reveal at this time.
It was a lot of my friends are either journalists or in communications. We've talked about that over the last few days, and it was a funny way of phrasing the situation. But the words are just reflecting, I think, some kind of mindset or a mental indecision here. You know, I do quite a lot of media training, and what I say to people is you do have to be precise once you're on air. It's a conversation. You are talking to people. Sometimes you're talking to millions of people. It's an amplified conversation, but you can't clutter it up with words that are just padding that somehow make you feel more comfortable about the message you have to deliver. And I think he does do a little bit of that, and it leads to confusion. The fact of the matter is, you have to ban temporary barbecues. End of.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. But also that requires him making a decision quickly and not there being a kind of process of, we're going to do this one day and then we'll maybe change our mind the next day and then we'll give it to, you know, I'll farm it out to the Justice Secretary or the Environment Secretary or whoever the next day, and then when it goes well, I'll take the credit for it.
That's what I'm saying about...
He's done this on a number of occasions.
It's quite worrying. But that's what I'm saying about you can have a precise form of words, you can be very direct in your delivery, but that is all coming from a plan that has been properly formulated in the first instance.
And now, and with this, for example, speaking of clutter and speaking of farming things out, he said, well, the emergency services said, the fire service said I should send it out. Well, I tell you something, when you're Prime Minister...
You're supposed to be telling them what to do.
Well, exactly, and you have thousands of people every single day telling you what you should do. Your job is to lead. Has he led by sending out this message, do you think?
Look, I think that we are living through a summer which has been riven with danger. And so I think a message had to go out, and it had to go out clearly. But I'm not sure that this alert was the right thing to do, because people perceive this to be about a terrorist attack, about a possible biological attack, about a COVID warning, for example. When we locked down, I can remember hearing Boris Johnson on the radio, and it was one of those moments in history. You know, I'm driving down the motorway to pick my daughter up from university. She's coming from the other end of the country. I'm driving towards her. Boris Johnson's on the radio. We all know that's a national calamity that's about to be announced. This is a serious situation, and it was urgent, but I don't think it required this particular alert.
Yeah. It's interesting as well because the headline in the Mail on Sunday is saying people will ignore it in a real emergency. There are an awful lot of people, including people who've got in touch with me over the past couple of days, saying, hold on a second, I'm just going to not have this alert on my phone.
Yes.
Also, it's England and Wales as well, so people in Scotland and Northern Ireland didn't get it.
Yeah, and it's like the little boy who cried wolf. Sooner or later, when you exercise a very, very big thing like this alert, people will not listen to it when there could be a really major catastrophic situation unfurling.
When you need them to listen, and there needs to be that cut through.
They'll say, oh, it's another one of those alerts.
Yeah, we get them all the time. I don't know about you, but I mean, I know this is not the same thing. Of course it's not the same thing, but I have a couple of media organisations where I have the breaking news alerts, and I find myself, I just don't even check them anymore.
No, that's what happens. That's exactly what happens.
Because if it was genuine breaking news, it was genuinely something new has happened, and all the time it's like, well, you know, breaking news, Prime Minister starts press conference, it's like, well, you've told us 4 times this morning that it's going to start at 11 o'clock anyway.
No, I think 24-hour news channels fell prey to this, and they started to do alerts about every single development that happened minute by minute. And I know that's why, and I cut my teeth in television on Sky News, so I know why it happens, but at the end of the day, the viewer stops listening, stops paying attention.
Yes, never wrong for long.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, I work for Sky News too, and I actually, I mean, I think it's a very different product now, but when I was there, I loved it, and it was a very...
Yeah, it's very exciting.
There was one occasion, actually, it was I'd come from the BBC, and it was my second day, and I was chatting to my boss, a woman called Esme Wren, who's now the editor of Channel 4 News. She's a fantastic journalist, and I was just chatting to her, and she was chatting me through things. She said, look, things are a bit different here than the BBC, and the big show at the time was Live at 5. Now it's the 7 to 10.
Oh, I've done that one.
Yeah, Live at 5 was the big one, and it was about 4:45, and I was one of the political news editors. Guy rings me up and says, hi, I'm the output editor of Live at 5. There's been a development, it was something to do with Ed Miliband, I can't even remember what it was, and he said, what would you do? And I said, well, I suppose, it's a reasonable development. It's like, what would you do with it? I said, oh, it was up to me, I'd probably lead Live at 5 with it. You know, Live at 5 starts and it goes, Ed Miliband, whatever. Guy rang me back about 20 minutes later about something else, and I said, did you lead Live at 5? Did you change your running order? Did you do the top story on Live at 5 because I said so? And he said, well, you're the political news editor. I'm like, this is not how it works at the BBC. This is not, there'll be a 3-hour meeting with 14 managers.
No.
You know, this is very different. But no, I enjoyed it very much. I learned a heck of a lot, including from the late lamented Dermot Murnaghan as well.
Oh, I'd left by the time he had started.
Yeah.
But I was actually on air on launch night, so I started on the night Sky News launched.
Goodness me!
I think there was me, Kay Burley, Penny Smith, Viv Krieger, Alison Holloway, Joe Sheldon, and we each took an hour up until midnight, and then I did the last one because I apart from Joe, I had the least experience in television. I hadn't come from broadcasting at all. I'd come from the Mail on Sunday.
Yes.
So I had to get used to a lot because it was broadcast meaning not print, and so I was on at 11 o'clock where my mistakes maybe were not quite so obvious. Got off air at midnight, and then from then on it was just feeding this hungry beast. I was there for 5 years. 7 hours a night every night.
Wow.
Just took holidays off. I learnt a great deal about pressure.
Yes.
How to be accurate under pressure.
Yes.
And I don't think there was another, at the time, I don't think there was another environment like it in the United Kingdom. It was just very, very different.
New. Yeah, it's always exciting to work on something new as well. And actually, this station is brilliant as well because our viewers and listeners, you know so much about what they're thinking if they don't like a story you're covering, or if they have strong opinions, or if they're bored, or if they say move on to something else. You get almost a live feed of what people think because of all the texts and tweets. Let me read out a few that have come in this morning, actually, including from Rachel, who says, good morning, Peter and Linda. Good morning, Rachel. That security alert came from very poor judgment. My mum was absolutely petrified. She gave me a ring. I am in Wales. I couldn't understand it anyway. I concluded it was a terrorist attack. It should have been sent as a text. Bill in Cheshire on Jason Arday as well, we'll talk about that in a minute, says, very sad to hear of his passing, but the lefty DEI media are now focusing on the right wing who brought him down. The fact is that Arday was a fraudster and a fantasist, and the lefties need a new story to move the narrative away from their incompetence and failure to see what a scam DEI actually is, says Bill in Cheshire. We'll talk about what the Prime Minister has said about that in a second. We'll hear a clip from him too. Sean in Gloucester says, housing illegal immigrants in affluent... Oh, I think you've dropped your microphone down your top there, Linda. Brilliant. The beauty of live broadcasting. There we are. We'll get it back. Sean in Gloucester says, housing illegal immigrants in affluent areas will seriously backfire with the idiots in charge. Their voter base among the chattering classes will very quickly change their minds when they have 1,000 single men of questionable standing loitering around their kids' schools, their nice houses being broken into, the deterioration of the community, etc. I can't wait for the backlash. It will be another nail in Libur's coffin, says Sean in Gloucester. Thank you to Elisa in Chelmsford as well, who's listening, who says, morning Peter, love Linda, what a treat, which is lovely. So thank you for that. We'll talk more about Jason Arday. We'll talk about what else is in the papers as well. Water firms to charge more in droughts as well, the Sunday Telegraph says. Anger as companies to be given the green light to increase bills at times of high demand. Should that be allowed to be the case about something that's, you know, pretty essential? It's water. Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. Back with Linda in a second.
The other main parties, Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, they didn't turn up. They bottled it like a bunch of cowardly chickens. And in so doing, they were greatly rude and discourteous to the Clacton constituents. And sure, not everyone's going to like a particular candidate, in this case Nigel, and they were left with having to vote for a bin. And I just think it is a grave discourtesy. What it actually shows is that all the other parties, they threw themselves in the bin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's hear what the Prime Minister has been saying about Jason Arday. Professor Jason Arday was at Cambridge University. He resigned on Wednesday last week because of a massive scandal involving plagiarism, involving fantastical and demonstrably false claims that he had made about his past that have been debunked. He was going through the ringer media-wise. A number of people have said the media have a role to play in his death on Friday night. I don't think that's the case. You may disagree. We'll talk to Linda in a second about that. Let's hear what the Prime Minister has said about Jason Arday's death on Friday night.
It's a tragedy on so many levels, but particularly just for everybody who knew Jason, his family, obviously, his friends. We think of them today. It's not a moment for any rushing to judgment. It's a moment for reflection, I would say, reflecting on how things came to this. A really sad and sorry state of affairs, and I think we just all today think of Jason, his contribution.
Not great sound on that clip, but I think you can ascertain from what the Prime Minister said. He said it's a moment for reflection. We shouldn't be rushing to judgment. We should be reflecting on how we got to this point. Linda, I wonder what you make of this controversy, because I mean, a man is dead. It is dreadful. It is horrible. It shouldn't have happened. It's awful. We have had a number of people talking about cancel culture, talking about the media, talking about how he got there in the first place, Cambridge University, other universities that promoted Jason Arday when he was at best a mediocre academic, not a professor at a leading university, and shouldn't have been in that role. The whole issue of DEI, whether they were putting him forward as a poster boy because of the colour of his skin rather than the content of his character and indeed his academic qualifications. Just give us your big, broad Linda Jubilee thoughts on this.
Just the first thing that should come top of anything anyone says is thoughts about this guy leaving behind a partner and 2 children.
That's
That
right.
is undoubtedly the main thing to say. I think the Prime Minister did say that, but after that, he just became very imprecise, very vague. And the fact of the matter here is that there's been an awful lot of criticism of the media, but the media does not start reporting until something happens in the first place. And what happened is there were allegations of plagiarism, which do happen in the world of academia. So a journalist set out to investigate these. The journalist, one of the main journalists in question, came from the Times Higher Educational Supplement.
Yeah, we're not talking about.
We're not talking about a red top tabloid here. Not that I'm criticising those.
No, of course.
Because I think they are very professional sometimes
people
too.
very easily a lot of people when they criticise the media, and look, we're 2 journalists talking about this, and we need to be cognisant of that.
But also,
they go, oh, this is gutter press and the grubby tabloids and all the rest of it. This was the Times Higher Education Supplement, which, against the reporter, someone around Jason Arday, may have been him, may have been the institution, used a very powerful firm of lawyers to try to shut that down. So when this discussion come, and the police were called as well, the Metropolitan Police.
And the police investigated
yes.
the journalist. The journalist was only doing what any good journalist should actually have to do. And before people chuck the baby out with the bathwater, you should actually remember journalists are not called a pillar of democracy for nothing. You get rid of journalists when there's a controversy like this surging around, then we'll all live in a poorer society. It's very easy to see the journalists as everyone's Aunt Sally in this scenario, but that is not true. Journalists, are, in the main, in particular in this case, they're investigating a bona fide situation which troubled everyone. I think the problem with this story is, and I go back to what I said about Jason Arday leaving behind a partner and 2 children, is that that's where our sorrow should and our thoughts should lie. Sometimes over-analysing whether or not journalists did this or did that is a futile exercise. In fact, I think people need to recognise that a lot of people who were commenting on this story said a great number of things because of how they themselves wish to be perceived, and that is very, very unfair.
Yeah. Nick in Loughborough says, good morning, Peter. No, the sound on the clip wasn't great. That wasn't Talk's fault, by the way. That was just the way it was recorded and came through to us. But it didn't matter about the sound in the clip because, as per normal, Burnham said absolutely nothing coherent anyway, says Nick in Loughborough. I mean, there are a lot of words in that clip. He didn't really say very much.
That's what I mean. The first part was OK. The second part was noise. I mean, politicians have got to stop doing that. We live in perilous times at the moment. You know, it's 5 to midnight on many issues, and politicians have to learn to talk precisely. I know they don't want to, but time's up now. They actually have to start saying things.
What do you make of Cambridge University in all of this? Because a lot of people, and not just Cambridge and other institutions, it's interesting as well, someone said, like, if this was Durham, if this was Loughborough, if this was somewhere else, people wouldn't care. And that's maybe...
Well, I don't think that's true.
Well, I don't think that's true. And also, you know, people saying, oh, people don't get cancelled for other reasons. Alistair Campbell, I don't know if you saw his tweets. I mean, it was just, we're through the looking glass here. He said, you know, oh, isn't it dreadful that he was hounded to his death? I'm like, hello, David Kelly? I mean, do we want a period of silence on your part would have been very, very welcome, Alistair Campbell. It's like he just has selective memory.
I started as a young journalist in Fleet Street, and I was on the Mail and Alistair Campbell was on the Mirror. We then both went to Today newspaper, so I've worked with him on and off. And I wouldn't say he ever hounded anyone, but he has certainly pursued a lot of people in very difficult circumstances. So I don't think that's a very fair comment.
Well, he's also the one who put David Kelly's name in the public domain. So I just think he's being very hypocritical there. Would be my strongly held personal view on that. Linda, I just wonder with Jason Arday as well whether there is too much rushing to people's sort of standpoint politically, rather than actually saying, hold on a second, why was he in that position in the first place?
Yeah.
Why were these lies believed? Did people want to believe the lies?
I mean,
maybe?
There's no question that Cambridge University comes in for some criticism here, a lot of criticism actually, and it's not really very fair to say, had it been any other university, there wouldn't be the same level of controversy. I think there would actually. I mean, that's to downplay universities like Durham, which has a fine reputation.
Yeah, of course.
You only get those reputations, by the way, when you are diligent and professional and precise. The fact of the matter is that his CV should have been investigated. It's a very serious thing to appoint a professorship, and he was made a fellow of the college as well. So I think that they just simply weren't doing their job properly. And that troubles me because we see in other areas of life where very senior people are appointed to very high level, very significant posts, and nowhere near enough research is done into their credentials.
Let's have a voice note from Jackie, who has been in touch on the alerts. This is what Jackie has said, and you can send these voice notes really easily, same way you send a voice note to anybody else. Just do it through WhatsApp, dead handy, 0344 499 1000. Whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, we're always interested here at Talk, 0344 499 1000. This is what Jackie has to say.
Morning, Peter. Jackie from Oldham. Regarding the alerts, it was always inevitable that if you send out a mass alert across the country, that it would cause distress, anxiety. It could be dangerous depending on what situation people were in. And what I find most disconcerting is nobody in government could foresee this. Where's the risk assessments? Where's the cost-benefit analysis of doing something? I think it's government overreach. I really do.
Listen, thank you for that, Jackie, and she's got a good point in there.
You know, one of the things that just struck me when Jackie started speaking is that alerts are for almost when you have to act immediately.
Yes.
You're given an alert because you have to act.
Like an instruction almost.
That's right. Yeah, so you give an alert about maybe not buying temporary barbecues. I mean, what are you supposed to do? I'm not off down to Costco now,
exactly.
or Tesco.
It's less Russia's going to vaporise you, more don't go to B&Q.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, crazy. We're going to talk about water charging in a second because the Sunday Telegraph has this story about water firms to charge more in droughts. There's anger as companies are to be given the green light to increase bills at times of high demand. Let's hear what Sean thinks about this. He sent us a voice note as well.
Morning, Peter. It's Sean of Cheshire. I'm actually on a road trip. Just like to let you know, I just heard about the water companies wanting to charge more for drought. Absolutely fantastic. I can't wait for them to charge us less when it rains. That would make it fair, wouldn't it? All the best.
Superb, Sean. Well, the good news is it never rains in the UK, although you can be forgiven for thinking that in the last few weeks and months anyway. Certainly if you're in the south of England, we need to be careful because, as I always remember all the time, I'll say this to them blue in the face, 82% of our viewers and listeners live outside London in the southeast. We are not a London-centric station. We're not obsessed with London things like the underground and all the rest of it. Lots more to discuss with Linda, including that water firms to charge more in droughts. I'm not sure they're going to charge us less when it rains, though, too. Stay with us here on Talking. Get your comment in, 0344 499 1000. Would love to hear from you. Stay with us.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to Dawn in Cheshire, who says, "Morning, Peter and Linda. Regarding the alerts, what kind of scenario should they alert us to? We don't have air raid shelters or bunkers, so the likelihood is we'd stay where we were. Or am I missing something obvious?" Dawn, you're not. But I suppose take shelter. I don't know how you would do that. And actually, I mean, Linda, what do you think?
So for 2 to 3 years, I did a lot of the media training for the National Ambulance Resilience Unit. So I dealt with the emergency services, and in that, I had to deal with the Civil Contingencies Act and what we have to do in certain emergencies. And there's a lot you can do.
Okay.
For example, when there were the big fires, you should be telling people around you to close their windows because the fumes are toxic.
Yep.
You have to act immediately when you do that. And there are several other things that actually you can do. It doesn't have to be some kind of James Bond attack, you know, by the Ruskies with biological warfare or whatever. You know, although we are living in fear of some kind of cyber attack happening, there are very many things that happen in ordinary life where there's fires, there's flooding, there's all sorts of accidents where you can act immediately and it does minimise danger and it can save your life.
Very interesting stuff. I do think, I mean, I think about the alerts that so many people and friends of mine have in Israel, for example. I mean, literally, rockets are about to fall on the sky, you know, do something, go to a shelter now. Those kind of immediate things, and that's what it should be. It shouldn't be, don't go to B&Q.
Also, for localised emergencies, what people shouldn't do, for example, is be calling 999 all the time. Because that overloads the
And this is what
hospitals.
happened as a result of this.
It is what happened,
Yeah. Very, very interesting points there. Mary in Whitstable says the water shortage in my area is getting dangerous now. In Whitstable in the southwest is now not giving out alerts to say our water is going off. No water stations, no deliveries to the vulnerable. My husband is seriously ill and on oxygen. It's frightening, Mary. I'm very sorry to hear that. And speaking of water, front page of the Sunday Telegraph, water firms to charge more in droughts. They'll be able to charge customers higher prices under plans backed by the government. Surge pricing and factor water scarcity into bills as part of a drive to reduce consumption. The point is going to be that people who are wasteful of water, who happen to have money, are going to do whatever they want, and people who don't have money are going to, you know, they're going to be thirsty. They're going to not use water. They're going to take risks, I think. Do you think this is a good idea, Linda?
I don't know, but I do know that the area where I live, I pay particular attention to all sorts of issues to do with water because we've had such serious flooding. I know we're in the middle of a drought at the moment, but we've had such serious flooding because I live very close to the Thames, and when rain is very heavy or the storms happen, a lot of those drains have broken, they've flooded. There's one person that lives near me and sewage went through the back doors of her house.
Oh, goodness.
And she had just brought a new baby home from hospital.
So dangerous.
So it's so dangerous. And this happens all the time. I think we've got to take a look at each and every water company, and there has to be some kind of root and branch adjustment.
What other countries do as well, and how they deal with it.
Yeah, you have to look at them. Look at what America does in various states when it comes to its water usage. You know, sometimes we should look to other countries, particularly those countries that have very hot climates, that because we will have to make adjustments every summer now, and that's to do with the drought. And then we have to be careful in the winter because obviously it's going to rain very heavily. For example, near me, the water, I think it's the water storage tank or the processing unit, could only work at 50% capacity all winter.
Interesting.
Now that is a really big problem that no one seemed to be able to get to grips with.
Speaking of other countries, actually, David's been in touch with a voice note on this. Let's hear what David has to say on this.
Dave from Cheltenham. We go to Crete a lot, especially in the summer. And out there, you have two types of water. You have agricultural and you have drinking. Now, also, the government imposed a 50-cent limit on water that you buy in shops, and that is for a 75 centilitre bottle. Over here, yesterday, I bought a well-known brand, £2.20 for 1 litre. Unbelievable. Talk about rip-off Britain.
That is a really interesting point
That
as
is
well,
true.
because bottled water is expensive, like many other things. And he talks about the 50-cent limit for 750 millilitres in Crete. Really interesting there about agriculture versus drinking water as well.
I think some American states do that as well. They separate off their water supply. And I think that we should be thinking about solutions like that. It might not be exactly that one, but we should be thinking of solutions like that.
Solutions.
And yeah, that's right. And working out how we move forward, because we don't want to be in this position again next year. And let's face it, we do think the climate now is changing. We are becoming much more overheated. The years that have produced record-breaking temperatures have all been within the last 4 or 5 years. So we know the trajectory is going towards the climate changing. So we have to think of some long-term solutions here.
Yes, it's very true. Let me just put a couple of more messages into the mix here. Colin says, why are water companies, wanting to charge us more during a drought when our underground water courses are very healthy with plenty of surplus? Get drilling, guys. Does that sound familiar? Liam says, morning, Peter and Linda. Great show so far. Liam from Piddington. With the water companies raising the price, we won't be able to flush the toilets because of this. Another person says, I wonder how hospitals cope with the emergency alerts. Patients and visitors would have had their phones switched on at 7 o'clock. Lisa in Northern Ireland says, Andy Burnham is the male version of Kamala Harris with his word salad answers. That's a very good point, actually. Peter's been in touch and says, Pete, I should say, in Southend-on-Sea, love Jackie, such good sense and sounds like Claire Fox. That's a nice compliment as well.
Yes,
and Lorna in Derby says, Andy Burnham is like a toddler on his first day of holiday. Please can I do a UK tour? Please can I do a Cobra meeting? Please can I do a national alert? He's got a bucket and spade in one hand, donuts in another, and an ice cream around his mouth. That's an arresting image, Lorna, or perhaps an image for which you should be arrested. Lots more to discuss and all of this with Linda. We're going through the papers, loads of big stories today. What do you think about water firms charging more in droughts as well, clearing the way for suppliers to introduce prices that change based on the time of year and escalate if consumers pass a certain threshold, and would mean smart meters as well, which I know a lot of people have strong views on. Whatever your thoughts, whatever you want to say, let me know. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk.
The other main parties, Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, they didn't turn up. They bottled it like a bunch of cowardly chickens. And in so doing, they were greatly rude and discourteous to the Clacton constituents. And sure, not everyone's going to like a particular candidate, in this case Nigel, and they were left with having to vote for a bin. And I just think it is a grave discourtesy. What it actually shows is that all the other parties, they threw themselves in the bin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Elisa in Chelmsford says, why do people say Burnham is a good communicator? I counted 10 errs during that clip. You played about the tragic death of Jason Arday. He does this a lot. It distracts me from his core message. And regarding the water charges, I was looking at buying a couple of slimline water butts to capture rainwater, as I have limited space for them. The cost, however, is £400. Too expensive for me at this time. Mark in Essex says, it's ridiculous that an island surrounded by water has water shortages. All we need is some reservoirs and desalination plants. This country is utterly useless at building infrastructure. Cliff in Berkshire says, Lord Redwood has been an advocate for the use of grey water. And Louise in Ipswich as well says, good morning, Peter and Linda. We should immediately be creating more reservoirs. Also, why can't we build desalination plants as well? Let's just hear a voice note from Hev on this, and then I'll get Linda's reaction. This is Hev.
Good morning, Peter and Linda. Lovely to see you this morning. This is Hev from Kent. I think we should scrap HS2, build a damn great big water pipe that will carry water from north to south, with obviously other pipes that join into the main pipe, and from, you know, like places that now flood regularly that never used to, like 40 years ago. And then maybe the aquifers might actually benefit from this, you know, the aquifers in the south especially. It's just getting ridiculous now, you know. It's just a thought, but I mean, to be honest, I think it's a good idea, and it's more likely to help the best part of the country, the whole country.
Certainly a reasonable thought from Hev there. What is Hev short for, by the way? I love the name, but what is it short for? Have you come across the name Hev before?
No, not at all.
Okay, now I want to know, Hev, can you message us and let us know what it's short for? Because do we have ideas in the Heather, maybe? I don't know.
I thought that.
Oh, Hev, right? Oh, because HEV, yeah. Heather rather than Heather, yeah. Or Hev, yeah. He and Heavy, he's my brother, or sister in that case. What do you make of what Hev says there?
I don't know whether it's practical to look at her solution, but it is a solution. It shows that people are thinking. They want activity on this. The fact of the matter is that I think what it boils down to is that we are not very good at managing and bringing to full implementation infrastructure projects.
Yeah.
It's not just water, it's across the board. We seem to go over budget, we always underestimate the time frame, and they always seem to be badly managed.
HS2.
Look at it, I mean, it's utter chaos. You need to be diligent and professional. You need to have a plan, you need to stick to the plan, and you need to roll it out. I don't understand why we are so laggardly at this kind of thing.
Steve in Northamptonshire says, so the water companies will charge us more because we're not using as much. That seems a bit strange. Tim says, from Dry Suffolk, he says, 2 million new houses, 5 million more people over the last 10 years, but no new reservoirs or storage. Do the math. Tim, you have hit the nail on the head there. And can I just say, and I know this is playing to my own prejudices here, but I interviewed Steve Reid when he was Environment Secretary, and I said, could it possibly be that immigration and the fact we have 10 million more people in the country in the last 20 years has put a pressure on infrastructure? It's like, this is nonsense, this is talking about, you know, you always go to immigration, you're always talking about this stuff, and whatever. He rubbished what I was saying there, and I'm afraid I was right, and poor old Steve Reid no longer in the Cabinet. Anyway, it would be wrong of me to be churlish about that. Tony is in West Sussex and is our first call of the morning. Tony, great to have you on the programme. You were in a restaurant, I think, when the alerts went off. Tell us your thoughts on this, Tony.
Yeah, it was 7 o'clock Friday night in the restaurant with my wife having dinner. The restaurant was quite full at that time. People like to get in early nowadays to get home, I think.
Yeah.
This bloody alarm went off. And it just carried on through the restaurant. Everyone's looking at each other.
Must be loads of people there in a small space as well.
Sorry?
Loads of people there in a small space. I mean, I'm sure it was chaos.
45 people there at that time, and the owner decides to get everybody out because he thought there was a fire in his kitchen.
Right.
So we all start to get up, we all start to move out, and some intelligent person said, it's only, I won't say the F word, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's only an alarm from the government telling us not to light fires. At which point everybody ridiculed the government, and there was a round of applause when somebody used another four-letter word describing the government, and everybody clapped their hands in agreement. So I don't know what Burnham thought he achieved by doing it. I don't think it was Burnham anyway. I think it was some idiot in the office who said, I've got an idea. Why don't we set off an alarm, make everybody...
But he's the Prime Minister, Tony. He should be signing these things off, no?
He's not the Prime Minister. Look at the state of Manchester. It's 1.3 billion in debt when he left it. What do you think he's going to do with our country? God, the man's a complete... It works up at 6:30 in the morning.
The line just broke up there as you said that word, but I'll maybe not ask you to repeat it. Tony, what do you think the point of that? Was there any point to that message, or was it just a nonsense?
I think the point was somebody said, let's see if it works. Let's see what reaction we get.
Well, they tested it already. They've tested it before.
Yeah. No. Well, these are civil servants, please. They're not intelligent like you, me and Linda.
Did it? Well, some civil servants are very intelligent.
My brother was a civil servant, and he was the biggest idiot.
Okay, now we're not going down that road, Tony. But listen, lots to discuss on all of that. Tony, thanks for your comments there. And Mercia has been in touch and says we live in Spain and get a lot less water, so use desalination systems. 8 litres of bottled spring water costs us 83 cents. Then UK, being an island, surely would use desalination plants, or is that much like common sense, or would rather pay shareholders a small fortune instead? That is Paul. Let's talk about another story, Linda, actually, because there are 2 stories in the papers today I want to talk about. This is people smugglers, Chinese mega dinghies sent via British port, and also just 15% of people want boat migrants near them. Lefties have backed Burnham's plan, but unsurprisingly, not in their area.
Yeah, so the first thing is these mega boats can accommodate 170. I think one boat could actually take 225 people. I mean, that tells you something. I was thinking about it last night. The fact of the matter is that they're building these boats. Sadly, there is a market for these boats, which tells us the situation is not getting any better. I know the government puts out figures that say, yeah, we're making an impact now, and that may well be true. But what we've got here is a really bad problem where people traffickers regard this as a massive global big business. That's why we got these mega boats. So whatever is happening to dent those figures at the moment, we know the trade in this hideous trade is getting worse and worse and worse. And I think it's really incumbent now on the government to take some serious action, because on top of all of that, what you've got is very undesirable people coming into this country, and you've actually got organised crime in certain areas of the UK. Now, once you've got organised crime endemic in certain areas, you've got another really big problem for the police to be dealing with at a time when we can ill afford to have this pressure upon us as we head into very, very choppy economic waters.
Yeah. It's interesting as well with the just 15% of people wanting boat migrants near them. I mean, this is just so predictable, isn't it? It's so many people say, oh no, you definitely, every child should go to a state school, apart from my kids, who I'm going to send to a private school. There's nothing wrong with sending kids to private school, but just don't be a hypocrite about it. As Miata Fanbulla, for example, who is the Environment Secretary, sends her kids to private school.
What a stupid idea to send more migrants into places. What is it, Piddington?
We're going to talk to the mayor of Piddington later on. Yeah.
I mean, I know that Andy Burnham wants to equalise society, and he thinks we took the wrong turning 40 years ago, etc., etc., etc. But I'm telling you, and I made this observation in the week when I was on air, as a former foreign correspondent, I was in Macedonia during the Kosovo crisis, and I watched people escaping a hideous scenario. Of course, I understand that. But they came into Macedonia, and at one point, I think 1 in 4 people in the whole country was someone escaping the conflict, a refugee. Now, they do need safe haven. They did need support from the UN, etc., etc. But in amongst that swathe of people, the Macedonians knew there were rapists, there were killers, there were criminals, and it really did affect that country. You've got to start thinking about how 1,200 young, single men from a completely different culture who go into a village like this, what effect that is going to have. And I fear that in Westminster, maybe in number 10 North, they do not understand on the ground how much damage can be created. And it's not that my heart doesn't go out to people who are escaping war and famine and pestilence. It does. But you've got to be real about the consequences for people in this country.
And very interesting with the polling, it's the Mail on Sunday today showing that 57% of voters say they do not want any more migrants in their area. Just 15% are happy with the idea. This is a survey by the Mail on Sunday and the polling firm Find Out Now. Many voters in the wealthier areas regard themselves as politically liberal and agree with the principle of sharing the problem of migrant accommodation more equally across the country, unless it is a bit too close to home.
Oh, yeah, until it really happens.
A majority of those surveyed, 51%, said that asylum seekers should be housed evenly across all areas of the country. Only 26% of people disagree. So they agree with the principle, 51% of people anyway. But what all voters agreed on, however, is that the immigration problem should be tackled at root. 82% think that people think that the government should do more to stop people entering, but of course people don't want them in their area. Very, very interesting. Thanks to texters as well. David says, I'm from Surrey originally. I'm now living on the west coast of Scotland. It's been raining for the last 2 weeks, more on than not. If we can pipe oil and gas all over the country, why not water? That's a really good point from David. Mary says we definitely need to plan, so maybe the water companies should perhaps build more reservoirs, stop building in areas with low water, water butts in every house. I have 3. Ban dishwashers, stop car washes, company bosses sacked for poor performances. I don't know about dishwashers and car washes, to be honest, Mary. I think there should, in theory, be enough water for those, but of course, we're going to build more reservoirs. We're talking about the need for those a minute ago. Mick has also been in touch. It says, when the phone alarm went off, it exposed lots of illegal phones in prisons, hidden in interesting places. Mick, I worked for the Ministry of Justice, and one of the things that we put in were those big scanners that could scan your whole body and find things that were there. And I just remember, I'll just never forget the look on Boris Johnson's face, he was Prime Minister at the time, when all I can say at 10 to 7 in the morning is that the prison officer was describing what had been hidden with the middle of the Kinder Surprise egg thing, and then had been found by the machine, and Boris Johnson's face was a picture. And I later had to kind of write about this, and it was actually Robert Buckland was the Justice Secretary, and he was talking about it in a speech I wrote, and it said, I said something like, the prisoner knew, I knew in my gut, Boris was shocked at much as the prisoner did, sort of thing. Let's find out about 230 British people having their mobile phones nicked every single day. This is a horrible thing to happen. It's a deeply inconvenient thing. We actually had someone in the office who had their mobile phone nicked recently. Hugely inconvenient, deeply distressing to people. And it's not just the phone. It's not just I can't ring people. The phone is a lot more things these days. It's your bank details, everything.
When you think about it, I was thinking about it this morning. I was unaware that we would be discussing this, but I kind of caught sight of myself in the reflection of the car window, and I had a driver, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be using the phone. But I'm going through the phone, reading the stories, looking at the stories, and I thought, gosh, how dependent all journalists have become on the phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not the desktop or the laptop, but the phone is an essential piece of kit. But on top of that, apart from journalists, you've got Ringo, that's all your car parking, and it stores all your information so you can park effectively and easily and pay the required fee. You've got your NHS app, that goes on because that's how you get your repeat prescriptions. You've got your bank, that's the other one. You've got all your sources of information. It's way beyond just a phone.
Yeah. And some of the scams that are there as well. I mean, one of the ones I heard about was, thankfully it's never happened to me, and I hope it never does, was in a bar, someone nicks your phone without you knowing about it, pickpockets you, pretends to have found it, so it's dropped, basically, and say, oh, you dropped your phone, I think you've got a message or something. You go, oh, thank you so much, kind stranger. Then they see you tapping in your code 12345, hopefully it's a bit more sophisticated than that, and then they see that, and then you put it in your pocket and they steal it again, and they have the number and they can get in. So
then it can open it.
It's not just the phone itself, it's opening it, it's seeing all your bank details, all the rest of it.
I mean, when can I just say, you sometimes we forget this, but all these phones are very, very expensive pieces of kit.
Yeah.
And I see people all the time, particularly on the underground or on the pavement, and understandable that they use them, Google Maps, for example, or they're navigating their way around London, they've got the phone out like that. All it takes is someone on a push bike just to go by and swipe the phone. It happens so easily. And
phones are incredibly expensive. I saw an ad yesterday for, you know, a new state-of-the-art phone or something, and I said, if you trade in your old phone, you'll get £1,350 off the phone.
That's right, off the phone.
Hold on a second. So how much is the phone? How much are people spending on these phones?
But what I'm trying to say as well is I think we're entering an era now where people have to be very responsible for things. We can't just complain about stuff and palm it off onto, I don't know, some kind of nanny state or some kind of government plan or whatever.
But the government's not coming to rescue you.
Oh, no, they won't. They won't come to rescue you at all. And in many instances, they shouldn't. But people do have to accept that they're carrying around a really expensive piece of kit. For example, the number of times I've seen people, women, but some men, pushing a chair with a child in it whilst they're talking on their phone. I mean, that's a very, very dangerous thing to do.
It is, certainly. You've got to be very, very cognisant of what's going on. Certainly. Lots to discuss on all of this. Let's get a couple more voice notes on water. Loads of people want to talk about water. Keith has been in touch and has this voice note.
Morning, Peter. Keith from West Ham here. How come a litre of water costs more than a litre of petrol or a litre of diesel, considering how much work goes into transforming oil into petrol or diesel? Just a thought. Keep up the good work. Cheers, mate.
Very interesting point there, Keith. Thank you. Nick has also been in touch with his thoughts on water surge pricing.
Good morning, Peter. It's Nick from Loughborough. The mere suggestion that Ofwat might allow surge pricing for water is frankly risible. In a scenario where they're already paying massive dividends to shareholders, they're already paying massive bonuses to directors, and they're losing over 1 billion litres of water a day in leaks that have not been fixed. This is just another example of rewarding failure. And I think the whole notion is absolutely an outrage. Peter, have a good weekend.
I mean, great common sense there. No weekend is complete without a brilliant voice note of common sense from Nick Moore from Loughborough. Keith, great points as well about petrol and diesel being less expensive than water. Lots of common sense there.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible how this whole subject has got people very exercised and they want to express their opinions. But I do think that, and I try and do this myself, you've got to really watch your water consumption. So I think an earlier voice note said that, you know, maybe we should have stricter controls on car washes and dishwashers, etc., etc. I don't think car washes, I think they're businesses. I don't think you should hamper businesses. But I think you've got to be careful about how far you fill your kettle, how many showers you have, how many times you do your wash. Do you wait for the whole day to fill your dishwasher up before you use it? As individuals, we can all do something.
Really interesting points there as well. Very good tip as well from a former copper who's been in touch. It says, wrap your fingers like an octopus around the top of your phone. Thieves will find it harder to grab it off you. That's a former copper who's been in touch. Very, very interesting point. Linda, thank you. Always a pleasure to see Linda Jubilee. Credit where it's Jubilee, that's what I say. Lots to discuss in the next hour, and indeed right up until 10 o'clock. Stay with us.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good morning. It's Sunday morning. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Peter Cardwell. It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm sitting in for Mark Dolan this weekend, and thank you so much to the welcome that so many people have given me to this temporary gig. I'm usually here, of course, through the week, Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. Loads to discuss this morning. One thing you really want to talk about is water surge pricing. This is a big story on the front page of the Sunday Telegraph. Water firms to charge more in droughts. Anger as companies to be given the green light to increase bills at times of high demand. I don't know about you, but my water bill in the last 5 years has gone up 100%. It'll probably go up further, I would imagine. Should water firms be allowed to charge us more when there's less water around? Supply and demand, maybe that would incentivise us to use less. But the question is, do they charge us reduced rates when it's raining so much? I don't think so somehow. The emergency alarm is annoying a lot of people. Whatever your thoughts on that, let me know. 0344 499 1000. It's now 2.5 days since the emergency alarm actually went off. Sorry, 1.5 days since the emergency alarm actually went off at 7 o'clock on Friday evening. We had a very interesting call earlier about a restaurant that it went off in. The caller said, look, you know, everybody was absolute chaos. People thought they had to evacuate because it was, you know, a fire alarm. It wasn't. It was the government's emergency alarm. Loads to discuss on all of that. Mobile phone theft as well. Fiona's been in touch and says it's awful, but doesn't say something about how over-dependent we've become on those devices, says Fiona in Bristol. We'll talk as well about Reform UK unveiling a plan for £50 billion a year in welfare cuts. We'll talk about that in just a second with one of our political experts in too. I want to hear from you. 0344 499 1000, the real experts, giving us a shout. You can text us 87222 with your text. Be sure to put the word talk in it. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell on Twitter, or indeed at Cardwell Peter on Instagram. You can send me a WhatsApp voice note. Plenty of those coming in this morning. We'll play out as many as we can between now and 10 o'clock. You can send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a ring all on the main number 0344 499 1000. So much to discuss between now and 10 o'clock. Stay with us here on Talk Breakfast. Sam says it always seems the answer to every problem now is how much more we can charge people for providing less and causing more inconvenience instead of looking for meaningful solutions that make things better and cheaper. Sam, that is a superb bit of common sense. We are, of course, the home of common sense here at Talk. And Sam, you just in, you know, however many, 25 words, whatever it is, you've just made great sense. I'm going to read that out again. Okay, this is Sam who's sent this in, reacting, I think, to the water firm's plan to charge more in droughts. This is front page of the Sunday Telegraph. We're going to talk about that. Sam says, it always seems the answer to every problem now is how much more can we charge people for providing less and causing more inconvenience, instead of looking for meaningful solutions that make things better and cheaper. They do the easy thing rather than the hard thing, as Sam points out. That is just absolutely superb. I love our viewers and listeners. They just have such common sense. Keep your voice messages, your text messages, your calls coming in. We'll take loads of calls as well between now and 10. Chris in Chester says, morning Peter, our eldest daughter was at a Tom Jones concert in Chester Racecourse Friday evening when the alert went off. The message arrived in Welsh, even though Chester's in England, but of course on the border with Wales. I suppose that'd be one plus side. They needed to look into that issue. Now it's been highlighted, and you know, these are rare. So somewhat ironically, at the Tom Jones concert, it was unusual for that message to come through. Tash in Bexhill said, water companies want to put the bills up during a drought, fine, and I mean fine, go ahead, but stop finding water companies and forcing them to reduce all their bills by a certain percentage to all their customers. They want us to be accountable for what water we use, then accountability works both ways. Yeah, it should, Tash, but does it? Is my question, because I just don't feel that is often the case. James Hodgkinson is Research Associate at the Adam Smith Institute. He's alive and well and in a suit at 7 minutes past 7 in the morning. James, you're very welcome to the programme. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you.
Good stuff. Tell us your thoughts first, if you would, on this story in the Sunday Telegraph, water firms to charge more in droughts, anger as companies to be given the green light to increase bills at times of high demand. Water companies will be able to charge consumers higher prices during droughts under plans backed by the government. Firms will be allowed to impose surge pricing and factor water scarcity into bills as part of a drive to reduce consumption. Is this fair in your view?
Well, look, with my economics hat on, it makes some economic sense. When demand for something is higher, you might expect to pay more for it. But we've got to remember here that the public are rightly furious with the way water companies have acted. They're furious with the fact that they have had numerous outages. I'm from Kent. We've had loads of outages this year. I've got a whole pile of courtesy water bottles downstairs that the water company keep delivering, and it's really not on. The truth of the matter is that if we want to get a handle on this, the answer is to just be able to supply people with the water that water companies are contracted to deliver. The way we do that is we build infrastructure. This is a chicken and egg issue for me. At the moment, we're looking at the wrong thing. We haven't built a reservoir in Britain since 1991. So let's start there. Let's look at the planning process. Let's look at how we can overhaul all of the red tape and regulations that water companies who want to build reservoirs are trying to jump through before we look at taking this out on consumers.
Yes, it's a very good point, because the consumers have been hammered. I'm going to make this point again. I've made it twice already this morning. My water bill has gone up by 100% in the last 5 years. I've been living in my flat for about 5.5 years or so. It was a certain amount when I came in. It's now twice that amount. And, you know, the water doesn't come out any faster. It's not any colder. It's not any purer. And the fact is that lots of people will have experienced these rises. They maybe will experience greater rises as well. But again, you know, how do we get to the message to people? And other countries deal with this in different ways as well. They talk about sometimes in Crete agricultural water versus drinking water and so on. Could there be changes in that direction, do you think, James?
We've got to be innovative because, like it or not, the climate is changing. We are in a position where it is getting hotter, it is getting drier. But along with that, if we have a changing climate in the way that we can expect to, we're also going to see probably wetter winters. So as much as anything, it's about building that infrastructure, building that resilience so that we can go months of drought through the fact that we've got water stored away from the winter. And that's what I'd really be pushing, is that we need to be looking at that planning reform so that we have the resilience built into our system to ensure consumers aren't the ones left out in the cold.
Where were you on Friday night at 7 o'clock, James, when the emergency alert went off, and what was your reaction to it?
So I was sat on a train coming from London back home to Kent after a very long week of work. And I'll be honest with you, I was pretty damn annoyed because I didn't just get one of these alerts. I got 5 or 6 of them, went off for about a 20-minute period and my phone was buzzing away. Of course, being on a train, we got alerts for everyone. So it wasn't just one at one point, it was over about a 20-minute period. And to be honest, I just thought, for goodness sake, this is ridiculous. Of course these wildfires are dangerous, but only in the localities where they actually are.
You're absolutely right, James, and that is a very interesting point. I want to get into the kind of the nature of being, you know, in a train carriage when that's happening as well in just a second. But whilst the wildfires are awful, there have been more of them in the last couple of days. I'm not minimising that at all. There are people who've been, you know, their homes have been devastated, they've lost property. It's an awful thing. The point is, it doesn't affect the vast majority of people in this country. Was it right that that alert went out? Do you think that essentially said, don't buy barbecues and don't start fires? Well, okay, thanks.
I think that there is an element of proportionality here that needs to be considered, because there were other options available. So if the government had, for example, sent an emergency alert locally to areas that have been directly affected by wildfires, I think that there's an argument that that would have been right, that would have been adequate in this scenario. Or they could have emailed people or sent people a text message to their phone number. The problem with this was it was something people couldn't control. It came up whether you had your phone on Do Not Disturb or not. There would have been people, and it's a point that I'm really, really keen to make, in households where there's domestic abuse going on, where they have a secret phone, who will have had that secret phone exposed. And ultimately, people are just going to be fed up with this. They're going to turn off their alerts. And if, God forbid, there's a crisis, a real crisis that comes down the way, yes, people are going to be less prepared prepared and less resilient as a result of the actions taken by this government.
It's a very good point, and we've had reaction to your comments from Elisa in Chelmsford, who says, James Hodgkinson for future Prime Minister, he's full of common sense and good ideas. If you were future Prime Minister, in fact, before I get to that, James, what was it like on the train? How were people reacting around you? Because it's different. I mean, there were sort of 8 of us around here. There are various people in and out, and as you know, because you've been in the studio many times and will continue to be, of course, it was me and a guest, I think, in the studio, and then there are people in the control room, the top team behind the glass who actually make the programme. And we were all thinking, what on earth is going on? I thought it was a fire alarm. It went off, for us anyway, just at 7 o'clock during the news. I was sitting here waiting to go, waiting to broadcast, and Kevin O'Sullivan was just leaving the studio. And we were thinking, what the heck is going on here? What was it like on a train?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't want to make it sort of about me, but in the context of the derailments,
I'm interested. I'm interested.
In the context of those derailments that we saw, my first thought was sort of, goodness gracious, are we coming off the tracks here? And that was something that was echoed by a couple of the other passengers that were on that train. I think after the initial alert, and I looked at my phone and went, goodness me, it's Andy Burnham telling me not to use a barbecue. I did sort of chuckle when I got the rest of the alerts come through. And then you have to hand it to people on the train, though. People did keep calm. People did sort of, dare I say, see the funny side after they realised that they weren't in any imminent danger. But it does just show you, I think, how ridiculous state intervention's getting in our lives and where we are today.
And when, as you correctly say, people will just stop listening if it's not done for proper reasons and for actually, the Russians are going to vaporise you. Fine, send me an alert. Don't go to B&Q. No thanks, Andy. Reform UK unveiling a plan for £50 billion a year in welfare cuts. Just talk us through this.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting policy from Reform, and I think it's really quite well timed. They've said a lot and they've done a lot on the kind of rhetorical side of this, and it's one of the first times they've brought forwards a really cohesive plan in terms of policy around this. Effectively, what they're looking to do is dramatically scale back PIP and the disability and sickness components of universal credit. They're saying that 4 million people across the country are now on some form of disability benefits, and the PIP bill in particular is going to rise by 50% by the end of the decade, much of it due to these mental conditions, things like anxiety, perhaps mild depression and ADHD playing a role as well. And that, in truth, is not sustainable, because the thing I want is I want a system that adequately provides for those who are in genuine physical need, those who can't go to work, those who can't get a job. And for those people, you need to be able to provide for them. And the way that the spending trajectory is going, if we don't make changes, that just isn't going to be possible. There is really good nuance to these proposals, I have to say. The most severely disabled will still get cash payments, which is important. Others will get access to services via local authorities. And perhaps the biggest one for me is that it would be a return to in-person assessments. And we've spoken a lot before about how important they are, and so to see that is really encouraging. I do have one concern, and I always try to be fair-minded with these sorts of proposals. Reform are talking about getting employers to buy what they're calling return to work cover, which would cover workers for the first 2 years of them being signed off sick. And they say it will be paid for by a 0.2% cut in national insurance, so it would be fiscally neutral. But there is always a bit of me that worries about putting additional burden on businesses. However, I say that it is a really serious contribution to a debate that needs to happen, a debate of profound national importance, and it's based off the Dutch system, which saw disability benefit claim applications drop by 40%. So it's obviously got merits, it needs to be considered, and I'd argue that other parties, instead of coming out and just condemning it, should offer their own solutions, because we need to have a proper debate on this, and this means multiple solutions need to come to the table.
James, if Elisa gets her wish and you become Prime Minister, would you make it the law for people to wear ties all the time?
No, I think it's very important that people have their right to self-expression and their right to sort of do as they wish. I do like wearing a tie, though. I do like trying to put myself across in as professional and sort of proper a manner as possible, and I think we could do with a little bit more of that in society today.
I wear ties on 4 occasions: weddings, funerals, meeting royalty, and court appearances. Those are the reasons I wear ties. James, thank you very much indeed. James Hodgkinson, Research Associate at the Adam Smith Institute. We'll take more of your calls in just a second. Thanks so much for all of them, 0344 499 1000. And just if you're interested, times I've met royalty, 4 court appearances, 1 court cases, 1. 100% record. Stay with us here on Talk.
The other main parties, Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, they didn't turn up. They bottled it like a bunch of cowardly chickens. And in so doing, they were greatly rude and discourteous to the Clacton constituents. And sure, not everyone's going to like a particular candidate, in this case, Nigel. And they were left with having to vote for a bin. And I just think it is a grave discourtesy. What it actually shows is that all the other parties, they threw themselves in the bin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thanks to everybody who's been in touch. Let's hear a voice note from Sarah on phone theft.
Morning, Peter. Good to see you on a Sunday morning. Just tuned in at the end of your conversation with Linda Jubilee. And I mean, she's a really sweet lady, but she said a couple of things that really irritated me and really summed up the state of our country. The first was about mobile phone theft and that how dangerous it was to see a woman using the phone and pushing a baby along in the pram at the same time. That's not dangerous. That is something you should be able to do. And it is a failure on behalf of our government that we cannot walk along with our phones out being used. We don't spend all of our money on our phone to keep it in our pocket. We spend money on our phone so that we can get it out and look where we are when we're unfamiliar with a place, or God forbid, speak to somebody when we're pushing our baby along. So, sorry, I really think she's wrong on this. OK, thanks, bye.
It's a very interesting point, Sarah, and I'm somewhere in the middle with this. I think that it should. I think the point, I suppose, is it shouldn't be dangerous, but it is. You're taking a risk. And yeah, it's always going to be a risk. And yeah, you know, obviously someone can snatch something from you anyway. But the fact that 230 people a day are having their mobile phones stolen is just absolutely dreadful. Lots of people in touch on the environment, on water charges, and whether water firms should charge more in droughts or should be allowed to charge more in droughts. Let's go to Mary in Cyprus, who's on the line. Mary, you're very welcome to the programme. Thanks for ringing us. What's your thought on this?
Hello, Peter. Well, listening to all the water woes there, it's occurred to me that here in Cyprus, for example, it being one of the hot countries in Europe, we probably don't have rain probably from May till October. But now here's the thing for the 21st century. We've got lots of reservoirs. So when rain comes, obviously, water is collected in there. And don't forget that our population grows during the summer with the tourist situation.
Of course, yeah.
Which means that even more water is being used. I mean, every time a toilet's flushed, I don't know how many is a gallon of water. And oh, by the way, dishwashers do not use as much water as washing up in the sink. But that's another point.
That's a very interesting point. And Mary, what you've illustrated there brilliantly, I think, is the fact that Cyprus knows that there are going to be areas and times of the year where there's a huge demand. We don't have enough reservoirs in this country. We've had a massive population explosion in the last 20 years. A reservoir hasn't been built or completed anyway, as James Hodgkinson correctly said there, since 1991. That's crazy. There are far more people. There's going to be more pressure on resources. I put this to the then Environment Secretary Steve Reid a number of months ago on this station. He rubbished it. He said, it's nothing to do with immigration. You're blaming immigrants, da-da-da, classic talk, wada-wada-wada. Well, if there are more people, you're going to need to use a finite resource to a higher degree. And you've illustrated that point brilliantly, Mary. It sounds as if Cyprus has it right.
Well, yes, I mean, obviously there are other warm, hot countries in Europe that have problems, but we have wildfires, the same as everybody else.
Yeah.
But here's another thing, not only do we have fire engines, but we have helicopters with buckets on the bottom.
Yeah.
Collecting water from the sea, from reservoirs, from swimming pools. And, you know, and actually, if you're in... We're about 14 kilometres from Limassol. But in the villages, if there is a fire near you, you know, in your little area, the church bells go mad to warn you
to alert people to that,
a problem.
Mary, you've illustrated... Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Do make your point.
Oh, no, it's all right. No, it just amazes me that... And of course, a lot of these people who've got water woes in England, they just come over to Cyprus to use our water.
Well, exactly. Mary, listen, thank you. That's a great snapshot there of life in another country and how they do things. The way we do things here, I think, needs to change. What a way to run a country. Let's speak to Olwen in Lincolnshire. You're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Hi, Peter. Beat for a start to let people warm, get your tinned vegetables in, and get your frozen vegetables in. That's my warning thing for a start. Now, I've been farming for 50 years as a farm worker, not a farmer. We've got massive watercourses in Lincolnshire, dikes, rivers, canals, which is all drained to the sea, which pump stations pump it out. The rivers are run by the Environment Agency, who they believe shouldn't be dredged and shouldn't be cleaned out, so you can't hold extra water in it. Their belief is that they should be left to get overgrown and run out.
Yeah, there is this whole point about rewilding and letting nature take its course and so on, Alwyn.
If I say to you SFIs, you'll not know what it means, will you?
I won't. Tell me what it means.
No, well, it's set aside. We've got hundreds and hundreds of acres in Lincolnshire just put down to grow rubbish, thistles, blackgrass, everything, and the farmer gets paid for it. Well, it's a tinderbox, absolute tinderbox. And then they're sending them beat things on Friday night to tell you it's got a fire. Well, until we get some common sense in this country, and like that Linda said, manage it. We used to manage things, Peter.
Yes,
we used
correct.
to manage the watercourses. We used to manage the environment. Everything's gone. We need to go back to the old way, or we are going to be jiggered.
And I think possibly new ways as well, Olwen, because, you know, look, I'm not going to get into the debate about climate change. Most people know what I think. You know, man-made climate change, I think, is a thing. I think there's evidence for it. That's whatever it is changing. The climate is changing, and we need to react to that. And the government needs to get the message here.
We do. Instead of having a prime minister who sounds like a car salesman every day on the bloody wireless or television.
Would you buy a car from him, Olwen?
I would not buy anything from him. Anything. He's honestly. We need change in this country, and we need it fast. We really do.
Yeah. Listen, thanks for your thoughts, Olwen. Really good thoughts there, really interesting common sense points. Graham says, will we get a government alert on our mobile phones to tell us Andy Burnham has posted a new video on TikTok, says Graham in Bushy. I don't think so. There was a brilliant message actually yesterday, I think it was James Heal, the Spectator journalist, who said that he was hearing that there was going to be an alert to say that, to tell people that Andy Burnham's from the north, which was quite good. Apparently also, not just is kind of reveal the exclusive information that Andy Burnham's from the north, I also heard on the grapevine through my high-level political contacts, that Keir Starmer's father was a toolmaker, apparently. Jackie's in Oldham and has some thoughts on water. Thanks for giving us a ring on 0344 499 1000. Jackie, always good to have you on the programme. What is your thought this Sunday morning?
Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
I think this increased pricing, surge pricing, is outrageous. The fact is that we are a wet country. We don't have drought, we have regional disparity. And the fact is, it is not beyond the will of man to be able to solve this.
Well, it's really interesting you mentioned that, Jackie.
In the places where we need
We
it.
move stuff around the country all the time. As one texter said earlier, why can't we move water?
Exactly. It is not beyond the will of man, but that is common sense, which is seriously lacking in these government departments. And the fact is, Steve Reid talks about that immigration doesn't affect the water supply. Well, I'd just put this to him. If he was having a dinner party, he would ascertain how many guests there were so that he could buy enough food to feed everybody properly.
Correct.
It is the same with government resources. If you don't know how many people are coming into the country, you cannot plan. The resources are available to everybody that needs it. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And what about the water companies themselves, Jackie? I don't know about you, but I've been moaning this morning about my water bill, but I don't think that's to do the two things, to bring the water to me and to get the sewage away. I don't think that's helping that. I don't think that's got 100% more difficult in the last 5 years. There's so much mismanagement of these companies, dividends to shareholders, bonuses to bosses who don't perform. I just, if people are being told, right, you're going to have to pay more for the water, they're going to say, well, give us a basic service here, make it work properly, rather than simply saying, water to the fat cats.
Exactly. When Thatcher privatised these water companies, she still made sure that the state had the greatest share, the amount of shares in this country, in the companies, and they were highly regulated. When Tony Blair came in, that all changed, and now we've got a free-for-all where water companies are not held to account, and as usual, it is the British taxpayer that picks up the bill from incompetence and sheer greed from some of these companies that, are making profits on the back of the taxpayers, and it's wrong.
Jackie, how are you keeping these days? I know you had a couple of health worries recently. Are things all right?
Yes, I'm doing well, Peter.
Good, you're fighting fit.
I'm fighting fit.
Excellent. Well, you give me a ring anytime, Jackie.
The body might be weary, but the mouth always keeps working.
The mind is active and will be in tip-top condition for many years to come. Jackie, you give me a ring anytime. You always speak a lot of common sense. I really appreciate it. Mark in Essex says, just be thankful the government don't send us an alert every time an illegal migrant enters the country. Gosh, your phone would never stop. Anne in Gwynedd is with me now and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Anne, what do you think needs to be done here?
Well, I think households should be a little bit more thoughtful. My friend and I were talking yesterday, and we were thinking, I haven't got a dishwasher, but my friend has, and she said she has to swill the things before it goes in the dishwasher.
No. I am militant on this, absolutely militant. If you have a dishwasher, you do not need to rinse things before they go in the dishwasher. That negates the point of the dishwasher, Anne.
Well, I agree.
Thank you. I agree. I've had this argument with so many people. What is the point of a dishwasher if you have to wash the dishes before you put them in? It's crazy.
Yeah. But if you wash up, if you put the washing up water in a bucket, and if you have a teapot instead of a mug and there's a drop of tea left, put it in the bucket. Vegetable preparation, put the water in a bucket and water your plants if you've got plant pots. That's one that saves a lot of money. Shock horror, if you go for a wee, don't flush the toilet the first time, maybe leave it the third time. It saves a lot of water.
Yes.
Youngsters seem to do their washing every night, wash the things that they've worn during the day, leave that maybe for 2 days. Why put your shirt and your underpants in the washing machine, even if it only takes 15 minutes.
Yes.
If you leave it for 2 days, it still only takes 15 minutes.
No, really good points there, Anne.
How many people leave the tap running when they clean the teeth?
Yes.
You know, they're little things, but it saves water. And not only that, if you do it sensibly, you can have a slight reduction on your water bill.
Have you noticed a reduction in your water bills by doing those things, Anne?
Yes.
Okay, and that must be pretty satisfying, actually.
Well, it's not much, but you know, these little things help.
It all adds up. It all adds up, you know. Listen, thank you, Anne. Really good points there. Very good common sense suggestions there. On the wider point, Anne, do you think these companies should be allowed to do this? Do you think they should be allowed to surge prices and charge you more? I mean, you're talking about being very responsible there and saving water and all the rest of it. What about the companies themselves? Have they been responsible?
No, I think the water companies, there should be somebody that seriously looks into the wages and the waste, because I think some of it's a bit. I think they're laughing at us, some of them.
I think you're probably right.
Are they British water companies, or has it all been sold abroad?
Well, there's so many shareholders from all over the place. And listen, really interesting points there. You give me a ring anytime, Anne. You and Jackie are welcome on this programme anytime. As is anybody else who wants to give me a ring. 0344 499 1000. Voice notes too. Thanks to everybody sending those through. Brilliant to hear from you. You just send them through WhatsApp, and whatever's on your mind, you can just let me know. Let's hear one from Steve on the alerts.
Morning, Peter. Steve from Manchester. Nice to hear you on the radio on Sunday morning. In regards to that emergency broadcast message that came through on Friday night at 7 o'clock, I was actually asleep. I got home from work, went to sleep, and the damn thing woke me up. And it's just like, what the hell are they going on about now? And then it says fires, risk of fires. I live in an urbanised concrete jungle in the middle of Greater Manchester, nowhere near any fires. So why were they sending me that stupid message? If it was in the United States, I'd have listened to it, because they send out messages when there's tornadoes, when there's hurricanes, when there's landslides, earthquakes, or nuclear war. That's when they send messages out. No, our government sends a message out when they're telling you you can't use your water, or there might be a fire 500 miles away or something like that. Great show, mate. Anyway, keep up the good work.
Steve, great message, and thanks very much for it. Sorry to hear you're woken up there. It is just ludicrous, and I think the reaction. We're now on day 3 of reaction to this ludicrous alert, and a lot of people just think, what is the government playing at here? And how often are these going to come out? You know, are we going to be disturbed all the time? A load of people switch them off. What if there is an actual emergency? Vladimir Putin is about to vaporise you. Yes, send me a message. Don't go to B&Q and buy a disposable barbecue. No thanks. David, I am not going to read out your message, which has been sent through by David Smith, who is apparently a person I think is Tech Up Dave. Should I read it out? Yeah, I will. It's a bit grotesque, really, but he said it's about flushing your toilet. I was once told, says David, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. Vile. Right then, we'll talk in just a second about whether Kemi Badenoch is going to be the next Prime Minister. The betting odds have changed. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
David has been in touch. Lots of people in touch with that last message, by the way. I'm responding to public demand. David's been in touch and says, can someone explain why the French government are not being taken to task over migrant boats? They are commercial journeys which constitute being governed by maritime law, which state boats and crew need to be licensed and checked for seaworthiness. Instead, they're escorting them illegally halfway across the channel. It's a very, very good point, David. We do pay them a huge amount of money and the boats keep coming. Paul in Hitchin says, on Mary from Cyprus's point on dishwashers not using as much water as sink washing up, the issue is that you can't chuck the water from a dishwasher on your garden vegetables. That is a fair point, Paul. And Hitchin is a great place. There's a good pub there. I think it's called the White Hart, which I remember going to previously, and very, very kindly, actually, my friend Anna's dad, Bill, picked me up from the station to bring me to their house the last time I was there. Otherwise, I'd have been hitching a ride. Now then, let's speak to the political strategist Peter Barnes, because recent polls are suggesting that Kemi Badenoch continues to grow in popularity. One betting market suggesting there's a 31% chance of the Tory leader becoming the next Prime Minister. The polls sometimes get it wrong, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. The bookies look at these things very, very closely because there's a lot of commercial aspects to this. What do you make of this, Peter?
Yeah, by the way, I called that Hitchin joke, by the way. I would just say that, good morning, it's nice to see you. What I think we have to remember is that this is not the Conservatives are back. This is more there are signs of life. We did a welfare check and, you know, there's movement. And I think that's what's really important to note here is that people can't run away with this who are members of the Conservative Party and think Kemi's going to be the next Prime Minister. Let's slow our horses and actually take a breath, because what we're actually seeing is that Kemi's brand is actually very, very strong. The problem she has is the Conservative brand is still polling very, very low. It's not really recovered. From the last general election, the voters were very good at punishing it. But unfortunately for the likes of Reform UK, they didn't put the Conservatives in the ground. They aren't finished. And this is the big point, is that what the bookies are actually looking at is the stability that Kemi Badenoch has been able to bring, and the fact that she's been able to actually have some pretty key victories on some big moments. If you look at the Henry Novak situation, she was the one that came out the strongest out of all of the political leaders at that time. And, you know, other certain wins that she's had, including on the economy, it's going to be a big string for her bow. But again, I will stress, this is not the Conservatives are back. This is more the Conservatives are back in the room, and 1 in 5 voters are willing to put the X in the box. That is something that a lot of people in other political parties said was never going to happen. So, yeah, welcome to 2026. It's still crazy.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, someone's put the headline Kemi Nascence for the Tories, which I think is up there with my Hitchin pun. Badenoch continues to grow in popularity among voters. Britain see her as a strong and decisive leader. Her personal popularity, if you look at some of the polling, is more than her party. She has had definitely some missteps. I think the problem with that neo-Nazi, now no longer a neo-Nazi, we're told, who's now an advisor to her on extremism. There have been a couple of missteps, but there's no doubt she is back in the room, as you say. And actually, the three main political parties, which are, of course, Reform UK, Labour and the Conservatives, pretty close in a lot of the polls. Nigel Farage emerging victorious from Clacton in the last few days, but problems for him ahead too, as this probe into his finances and the Christopher Harborne donation and others continuing as well. The initial thought, David Bull, actually, who's on this station between 1 and 4 all this week, former chairman of Reform UK, told our sister station Times Radio a couple of days ago that there was initially a thought from people around Nigel Farage that actually the probe would go away if there was a by-election. That, of course, is not the case.
Yeah, I have to admit, I saw that interview with Dr. Bull, and when this was first all announced, I thought, do they think this goes away? And I think a lot of people in Reform kind of thought it did, because, you know, procedural bylines and going through the details of stuff isn't necessarily the top echelons of Reform UK's strong point. And I think this has always been my big criticism of Reform. They don't have the mechanisms and the internal structures that would have caught something like this and be able to make sure that, you know, the piece of paper was filled in by Nigel Farage at that point. For me, I've listened to a lot of the commentary since Clacton on this, and the people are saying, oh, well, there's going to be another by-election. For me, I don't think there really needs to be one in terms of the damage being inflicted for reform, because what's going to happen is if this committee comes against Mr. Farage, a lot of people who already don't like him will be confirmed in that opinion that they shouldn't like him. This is the danger of having such a low unfavorability rating. You have a lack of maneuverability to be able to kind of brush off a lot of personal attacks. And if you look at the Clacton by-election results, what we actually saw is, yes, the reform vote went up, but what really happened was the vast majority of people who voted against Farage didn't turn out last time by anywhere near the same number. So that's why he managed to get the 63%. And yes, he did go up by 1,000 votes. It's actually very, very impressive. But on home turf, making it a referendum on him, again, it kind of caveats it where the win is not quite as loud as I think that they needed this to be. I always say they needed Clacton to roar. It made a more purred again, a quiet meow.
Well, indeed. Thank you very much. That's Peter Barnes there, a political strategist. Appreciate his contribution to the programme this morning. Let's hear from Peter in Liverpool. He's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Peter, you want to talk about water? You're very welcome to the programme.
Yeah, I find it strange that we get people ringing up with these kind of wartime spirit, let's save water for the water companies, while they charge us, hundreds of pounds more every year and waste billions of gallons of water every day. But this country's full of, we've got Loch Ness, Loch Lomond, all these reservoirs. Well, they are
large lakes. Anyway, we've a lot of water. There's no doubt about it. And what is going to happen, Peter, as night follows day, is this fifth heat wave is going to end, I hope, very soon for the south of England. We're going to get into a situation where there's loads of rain soon, in the next month, 2 months, whatever it is, and people will say, hold on a second, why can't we just manage the water? We're paying a load of money to water companies. Do your job, guys.
But this is what we pay politicians to manage. And we've been failed for decades now with politicians. They are just, we must have the worst leaders in the world. They look after themselves, but they don't look after the country. They haven't invested in the infrastructure of this country for donkey's years. We're living off the Victorian age. I'm just about to go to a station now, and it was all built by those people.
Yes.
Without the aid of, the machinery and stuff that we've got today.
Yes.
These people are diabolical. And to be honest, you had someone on the other week who was promoting paying politicians $250,000 a year. It's outrageous. These people are just...
How much should we pay politicians, Peter? What's a fair wage to be an MP? Yeah.
I want a politician to, first of all, go into a job and look at the job to do something to improve the country, not on how much he's going to make from it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, all I see are celebrity politicians today, people who are just they're just feathering in their own nests.
I can tell you, Peter, having worked in politics, there are definitely people feathering in their own nests. There are definitely people who are egomaniacs and want to be celebrity politicians. There are some good people too. We don't hear from them. We don't hear from them a lot, I must say. It's usually the ones that shout the loudest that are listened to the most, which is a shame.
But what we've got now, we've got a situation now where we've got a prime minister, an unelected prime minister. It's unbelievable what's going on in this country. He's a fraud. He should not be in that position.
I mean, the Labour Party themselves put him in that position. What should happen now? Do you think election? What's the solution to this?
I would love an election tomorrow, but I'm really disheartened because whenever I see any results, I still see people voting Labour, and I just don't understand how they could ever vote Labour, especially after the 2 years of Keir Starmer and now this fella. It's just incredible.
Peter, thanks for your call. Really interesting to talk to you. Jeff's in Hastings and wants to talk about water as well. Jeff, really good to have you on the line, 0344 499 1000. What do you think?
Oh, hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's the first time I spoke to you.
Oh, great. Yeah, good to talk to you, Jeff.
Basically, let me just backtrack a bit. Now, what we had a report of years ago, well, last year, was that all the Labour government did was go in and have speaks, chats on how to get more money out of people. How can we tax them on this? This is another fine example. It all leads back to the government. They are in charge, not the water companies. They'll go with the flow, if you like.
See what you did there?
Yeah, got that one in. But basically, my bottom line point is that, okay, if they're going to charge us more money for water, why don't they put that in a side bank and build more reservoirs? It's just another excuse to nick money off the people, and they will continue to do it.
Yeah.
Build more reservoirs.
Well, you're right, Jeff. Take the billions in profits. Take the billions we pay you. Don't give your shareholders a dividend. Don't, do use the money properly and say, right, this is a big issue. Fix the leaks. Build more reservoirs. Do the stuff you're meant to be doing. Invest in it. And there's so little of that has actually happened over the past few years. Instead, it's, right, well, you're a shareholder, we're going to squeeze more and more out of this, we're going to give you more and more money. I mean, when it comes to a public utility like water, I'm basically a socialist. I think nationalise it.
Well, yes, that's right. I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, it's just, it is bad. As that fellow just a minute ago spoke, Victorian railway stations.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe because they were so well built, and it's nice to see an old railway station. I love them.
Yeah, me too.
Keep what's working and fix what isn't. Basically, that's it.
If only people took your advice, Jeff. Great to talk to you, and good to talk to you for the first time as well, Jeff. Whether you're a new caller, an old caller, whether you've spoken to me in the past or not, you're very, very welcome on the line 0344 499 1000 for a discussion like I've just had with Jeff, or you can send me a voice note as well. Cindy is in Michigan in the United States, and she has some thoughts on pushchairs and mobile phones.
Hi, Peter. Great show. I'd like to comment on pushing a carriage and a phone, saying that it's not good. Well, I could do it perfectly and have my eyes peeled for everything around me. What, am I not supposed to carry a purse either? Thank you. Again, great show. Fantastic.
Thank you, Cindy. Much appreciated. It's a very interesting point, and I suppose everything's risky. I mean, literally, walking out the door in the morning is risky. There is some risk everywhere. It's about kind of managing that risk, and I suppose trying to keep yourself safe to some degree, being responsible. But at the same time, as a lot of people say, and I think Cindy was intimating there, you do have to have freedom, and you do have to have, you should not have to be, in this kind of worried, protected state all the time you're in public. But increasingly, I feel that way sometimes. London, I think, is where I live. I'm lucky to live in a safe area, and I love the area that I live in. But yeah, there are times, big stations, and I know there are lots of places around the country where you do keep an eye on you keep your hand on your wallet or your phone, and that's a sort of sensible thing because there is a lot of crime. But things should be safer. People shouldn't live in fear, and it worries me that they do. Archer has been in touch on my water bill, which I have moaned about on a number of occasions.
Peter, if you're complaining about your water bill, I know this is going to be quite random, try having a look at your water meter and see if it's moving or when you are not using water. I don't know what your water meter looks like, but either the digits will be moving or the little thing in the middle will be moving round. If you've got a leak, even a tiny one can have a huge effect on your bill because it's going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It may even just be a leaky loo. Yeah, leaky loos really do put your bill up. Bye.
Thank you for that excellent tip. The thing is, I don't have a water meter, and I don't have, I can't monitor the water that I'm using because I live in a block of flats, and I've asked for a water meter and they can't give me one, so they just do the charge every month. So we had a very good caller on a few minutes ago. Anne was talking about all these sort of tips about saving water and different ideas about how to save money. It doesn't matter. I could have the tap on all day, every day, and it wouldn't affect my water bill because they won't give me a water meter, which I think is silly. But apparently it can't be done in my flat. But yeah, I do think housemate number one, Jack, should sort it out, but he just never does. He just sits there, just sleeps, just eats his food. you know, he's a bit useless when it comes to flat management, even though he is, you know, the #1 housemate. Anyway, lots more to discuss in a minute. We'll talk royals. Stay with us here on Talk.
The other main parties, Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, they didn't turn up. They bottled it like a bunch of cowardly chickens. And in so doing, they were greatly rude and discourteous to the Clacton constituents. And sure, not everyone's going to like a particular candidate, in this case Nigel, and they were left with having to vote for a bin. And I just think it is a grave discourtesy. What it actually shows is that all the other parties, they threw themselves in the bin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's talk royals. Grant Harold is with us, the royal butler. Grant, you're very welcome to the programme. How are you doing?
Good morning, I'm very well. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Prince Harry said to be planning frequent UK visits next year after his most recent reunion with the King. What do you make of this?
Not hugely surprised, to be honest. I think with the fact, obviously, we had that visit recently, which seems to have been a success. And from what I've been hearing is that Harry has been communicating with his father. I think for many reasons, but obviously he's aware that his father's been unwell. I think he's keen for his grandkids to spend more time with him. So I'm not really surprised by this, but I'm glad that obviously this is, even the King is obviously going to be happy about this, because I'm aware also he wanted to see more of his grandchildren.
Yes, certainly, and that's a perfectly normal human instinct. The problem, of course, is how much of it gets into the public domain. Can he trust his son? And whilst there might be a reconciliation between father and son, brother and brother is not going to happen anytime soon, is it?
No, not at all. And you're right. This is the biggest thing I've always said, is that since the breakdown of trust especially between William and Harry, I think there's always this risk that when they have these meetings and these private conversations, of course they're worried that they're going to go into public domain. I mean, look the other week at that dinner party in the States attended by Martha Stewart, where obviously things were overheard. And this is just an example of how these conversations, even innocently, and I have said this, it could be an innocent conversation, but it still can get into the public domain. And this is what the royal family, the King, won't want, because also Prince William will be the first to say, I told you so.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Tell us as well about the Epstein victims telling Andy Burnham to launch a public inquiry into Andrew. This has been mooted politically for a while. What do you make of this?
It's very strange, isn't it? I mean, it's gone very quiet. And I think what's so difficult is, you know, whenever we talk about him, we've always got to obviously say the obvious, that he's never been found guilty, which is at this moment in time a fact. And I think it's really difficult because I think the general public want, as well as obviously the victims, but the public want to kind of get to the bottom of what's going on. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for this inquiry. I mean, it's been going on for so long now, and it's if they don't have this inquiry, to my mind, it's going to leave doors open. And whether he be innocent or not, surely I'd have thought he would want this inquiry to either clear his name or to move forward with it. Do you know what I mean? So I just don't understand why. I don't understand why it's gone so quiet. That's the thing I find very odd.
Yeah, and this scandal is going to continue. It's interesting with Peter Mandelson as well. Many questions to be answered and about flights, about transportation, about security. All those unanswered questions and frankly, some of the lies that have been told by Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor over various points in this as well. Yeah, so there's a lot in this. Speaking of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, rumours that he's been offered a holiday to Balmoral and also worries about his mental state.
Yeah, I mean, look, in fairness, when it comes to mental health, I mean, I have no doubt, again, innocent or not innocent, you know, with mental health, of course, it's definitely going to be a big part for him, because obviously I'd be surprised if it didn't affect your mental health. As far as Balmoral goes, I'd be really shocked and surprised if he did go, because the King's fully aware of the public opinion. I mean, you know, there's polls been done that show that obviously quite obvious that the general public are not in favour of him. So I think it'd be a really unadvisable move if the King did invite him up there, and I don't think he would. I really doubt it. I think at this moment in time he's trying to do as much as possible to keep distance from his brother just now. I mean, I'm sure he's still getting updates and hearing how he's getting on from that mental health point of view, and making sure that he is okay, because at the end of the day, it's still his brother, it's still his sibling. But as far as being seen at Balmoral, that would be a very big public kind of announcement saying, look, my brother's with me and we're spending time at Balmoral together. I just don't see that happening.
Okay, Grant, thank you. That is Grant Harold there, the Royal Butler. Appreciate you joining us on the programme today. Shane from Maidstone says, I can't understand how some people are resistant to having a new reservoir near them. Where I live, every available patch of land is being turned into a bew house. And what's a bew house? I don't know what a bew house is. A bew house? BEW. And existing houses are being converted into a home of multiple occupancy. Look also into the Kent rules surrounding them. It's astounding. We'll try and find out what a bew house is. I don't know everything, unfortunately, which I know will come as a shock to many people, not least Tech Up Dave. And Anthony has been in touch as well and says, your water company is lying. I live in a block of flats and I have a water meter. It is just fitted to your inlet pipe. Best wishes, Anthony. Well, maybe I should query that again, because I just don't think I uses that much water, quite frankly. But loads of people want to get in touch on this story. It is the front page of the Sunday Telegraph. Water firms to charge more in drought. Anger as companies to be given green lights to increase bills at times of high demand. We'll talk to Dr. Rakib Hassan in a second, social policy analyst, about what Andy Burnham has done over this alert. Loads of people in touch about that. Jason Arday as well. His heartbroken family have been left in shock after his death. They've paid a moving tribute to their amazing father, partner, brother, uncle and son, and the Prime Minister has reacted to that too. You've been reacting as well. Whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, 0344 499 1000. Plenty to come here on Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Peter Cardwell, sitting in for Mark Dolan this morning. Thank you so much for your company. Thanks for all your messages as well. It's Newhouse rather than Bewhouse. I thought a Bewhouse was something different. Just a typo. That's all it was in that message. Loads to discuss this morning, including the Prime Minister paying tribute to Professor Jason Arday, who has died. There are so many debates around that in regard to diversity, equity, inclusion, Cambridge's role, the press's role. Lots of people wanted to discuss on that. Water, huge issue this morning. Water firms to charge more in droughts, surge pricing for that precious water because there is so little of it around. Obviously, in a few weeks' time, when it all starts raining, people will be saying, why can't you just catch it in the reservoirs? Oh, yeah, because you haven't completed a new one since 1991. We'll talk as well about the alert. It's now, believe it or not, more than 37 hours since the alert happened to all our mobile phones. People still very angry about it, and lots of criticism from Andy Burnham pressing the button, sending the alert out. He's blamed the fire service and said they wanted to send it out. Well, you're the Prime Minister and you can say no if you want to. Plenty to discuss this morning. I wanted to discuss it with you. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram at CardwellPeter. You can send me a WhatsApp text message. Send me a WhatsApp voice note. Plenty of voice notes coming in this morning. Keep them coming. We'll play out as many as we can between now and 10, and we'll take as many calls as we can between now and 10. 0344 499 1000. Stick with Talk Breakfast, the only place to be this Sunday morning. So many stories to discuss. Stay with us. Well, I was on air on Friday night when the very sad news came through about the death of Professor Jason Arday. People are still reacting, and there is a very human tragedy at the centre of it. Of course, he is dead. It looks as though, we don't know because the coroner hasn't said yet, but it looks as though he has taken his own life. We know that he leaves a wife and 2 children. There is a huge controversy over his life and his work, particularly when it comes to Cambridge University, the claims he made, the role of the press, the role of diversity, equity, inclusion, those who promoted them, those who took him down, and whether there was legitimate journalistic inquiry or whether there was hounding. Certainly there are many, many schools of thought on this. I'll get Dr. Rakib Hassan's in a second. I'm going to play you a clip now of the Prime Minister talking about Dr. Jason Arday's death. The clip is a bit windy. It wasn't us filming it, it was another news organisation filming it, so sorry if you can't hear it particularly clearly, but you will hear the Prime Minister pay tribute to Jason Arday and say that we should pause and reflect on his death. I will be reflecting certainly with Dr. Rakib Hassan in a second, but first let's hear from the Prime Minister.
It's a tragedy on so many levels, but particularly just for everybody who knew Jason, his family, obviously, his friends. We think of them today. It's not a moment for any rushing to judgment. It's a moment for reflection, I would say. Reflecting on how things came to this. A really sad and sorry state of affairs, and I think we just all today think of Jason, his contribution.
The Prime Minister speaking there about Jason Arday. Well, let's speak to Dr. Rakib Hassan now, who is a social policy analyst. Dr. Hassan, thank you for joining us this morning. How are you doing this Sunday morning?
No, I'm doing well, Peter. How are you?
Yes, very well, thank you. We'll talk about the alert in a second as well. I'm sure you have some views on that, as do many of our viewers and listeners. And if you do want to respond to anything that Rakib or I say on that, 0344 499 1000. Let's start on Jason Arday first, because the debate really continues. I'm reluctant to use the word blame when someone apparently has taken their own life. The euphemism around that, not suspicious circumstances, crime not suspected, things like that. But he is dead. There is a huge controversy about what led to that. What do you think?
Well, I think that is such a sorry tale. And I think what it really shows is that one of the most prestigious institutions in our country, the University of Cambridge, has really dropped the ball here. We saw Jason Arday was promoted, over-promoted as some kind of virtuous academic trailblazer, when in reality, the University of Cambridge was using him, using a vulnerable individual as their protected characteristics poster boy. He ticked all the right boxes. For them, it wasn't really about his achievements. It doesn't seem to be a real system of check and balances there in terms
Well, they
of
wanted to believe the lies,
assessing
Rakib. They wanted to believe the lies.
Exactly.
The lies fitted their narrative.
No, absolutely. But I think ultimately here we want to be promoting merit over identity. The exact opposite has happened here. And we're talking about an individual here, what he was referring to in terms of what he had supposedly achieved. It just seems like no one even checked how legitimate these claims are, which is quite remarkable. And then when these allegations of plagiarism and fabulism came to the fore, it seemed like the University of Cambridge didn't really want anything to do with him anymore. Their duty of care didn't matter at all. That is the definition of ultimately exploiting an individual. Now, of course, we want to be in the business of promoting personal responsibility and accountability. But I think what's very clear, this goes far greater than the individual that we're referring to. We need to look at the systems in place and how they failed so monumentally.
One thing you haven't mentioned there is the press, Rakib. I know that Jason Arday, or at least those around him, used a very, shall we say, muscular legal firm, Carter Ruck, to attempt to silence journalists around this. He talked about the impact on his mental health. Clearly there was an impact, a huge impact on his mental health of those stories. What do you make of that element of things?
Well, I think firstly we have to go back to the fact that there was elements of the press and large sections of our media ecosystem that promoted Jason Arday a great deal. There wasn't many elements.
And he was happy to be promoted and to use them to be promoted.
He was more than happy to be promoted, and in terms of how that helped him progress with his life, he was perfectly happy with that. By the looks of it, I do think there was a serious overcorrection once the allegations of plagiarism and ultimately fantasizing came to the fore in terms of life achievements. I think that there was a very strong focus on the individual that we're talking about today. So I think in a way the pendulum, I don't know what your opinion is on it, Peter, but I think the pendulum swung too far in both directions, in a sense. But I think moving forwards, we really need to promote merit over identity within our university system, but across all our sectors and industries in the country. And I think we have to be very clear here that in some ways, diversity, equality and inclusion, this is not ultimately adopting an inclusion approach towards those who belong to minorities. In some ways, it's using and exploiting them in order for people to feel good and portray themselves as virtual radical progressives. And that really needs to come to an end as soon as possible.
Can I just ask you, Rakib, as someone who is from an ethnic minority, when someone describes you as like an ethnic minority academic or an academic from a certain background or whatever, how does that feel to you? Because I don't think of you as your identity. I think of you as a very, very good commentator who I'm very happy to have on my shows, 5 nights a week, actually, and as a social policy analyst. But there will be people who will say, right, we're going to put him in this panel, or we're going to invite him to do this, that or the other, to balance, in inverted commas, certain things or to show diversity. How does that feel for you when people describe you not as an academic, not as a social policy analyst, but as a ethnic minority social policy analyst, or an ethnic minority academic, or whatever, or however they describe you?
Well, firstly, Peter, I'd make the point that I'm very proud of my Bengali ancestry and my Islamic faith as well. But I think ultimately what I'm proud of is what I've achieved in life. And I think some of the most important parts of my identity are the fact that I belong to my family. That I actually think, I mean, some people might disagree, but I think one of the most interesting things about me is the fact that I'm from Luton. I've got a very strong local identity.
Yeah.
So I don't ultimately want to be invited for media engagements to sort of balance the ethnic, racial or religious composition, or that, he'd be a good Muslim voice for this particular engagement. I ultimately want to be invited because I have the knowledge and I have the expertise to add real value to that particular interview, to that panel. That's ultimately my focus. And that's what I think that should be everyone's focus at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was once told by a senior person at a major broadcaster that my main problem with for my career was that I was a white man. I was literally told that in terms. Anyway, managed to get over that one. Rakib, let's talk a little bit about the alerts and what Andy Burnham has done here. Lots of criticism in all of this, and we're 36, 37 hours on now. Loads of people still very, very annoyed that their Friday evening was disturbed, and not just disturbed, but we were essentially told to panic because of this alert. Where were you on Friday evening, and how did it affect you?
Well, I was enjoying a cup of chai and I nearly spilt it here when it came through. And I think that what we need to have a discussion is, of course, I think there's a place, for example, for localized emergency alerts. If there is a major incident, I think there's a place for that. That kind of more localized system. But what we really need to link into is whether the emergency alerts caused any accidents or emergencies, for example, in terms of road traffic, people being on the road. So I think there needs to be, there's no harm in having that kind of examination, that evaluation of how the emergency alert system has landed on this particular occasion. And I think that some people will be worried that it's being abused by the government. Should it be used in special circumstances? There'll be some members of government who argued that this was a special circumstance with the fires which have taken place and the fact that large swathes of the country are currently under drought conditions. So I think there needs to be that evaluation. How can this system work properly? Should it be more localized as opposed to being nationwide? And whether it had any negative impacts after it was distributed.
Yeah. Listen, thank you, Rakib. Great to talk to you. Brilliant, as always. Dr. Rakib Hassan there, social policy analyst, not on this station because of anything to do with his background or his faith, but simply because he's a bloody good person to hear from on a Sunday morning or indeed any time of the day or night. Debbie's been in touch and says, are the charities going to start advertising
abroad?
Thank
you, mate. Take care.
Oh, we still have him. Debbie's been in touch and says, are the charities going to start advertising abroad to get water to the British people? We're officially a third world country now. Well, I don't think we're there quite yet, Debbie. Hopefully we won't be. Tony says, regarding the phone announcement, why doesn't everybody just turn off the alerts on your phone? Easy. Loads of people are doing that, I think, Tony. I think more people will as well. Let's go to Carol in Cornwall. Carol, I have not spoken to you for a while. How are you doing and what point would you like to make?
Well, Peter, it's wonderful to hear you again, especially in the morning.
Thank you.
So, you know, because I just absolutely adored your programmes in the morning.
Very kind.
Talking about unnecessary alerts. On Thursday morning at 20 to 1 in the morning.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. My study is upstairs near the bedroom. And the landline rang and rang and rang, and of course it woke me up. And I came into this, of course, quite frightened to death, because if someone is going to phone you at 20 to 1 in the morning...
It's got to be serious.
It's got to be a really bad problem. I was worried about my sister-in-law, my niece. I was worried about my friends. Something bad had happened. You know, my God, you know, what is it? And what it was, they left a message, thank heavens. And it was from South West Water, warning me that from 9 a.m. the following morning, we were going to be into drought.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Not to use a hose and that sort of stuff. Can you believe it?
Was there a human being on the end of the line, or was it just a recorded message, or...?
Oh, it was a recorded message.
That's absurd. Absolutely absurd.
And so, of course, it was very unsettling.
Yes, of course, of course.
Because naturally you're frightened. And talking about water bills as well, I look at my last bill because they check I'm on a water meter. You've got to be on a water meter in Cornwall. If you move house, and there's not a water meter where you're moving to, they will put one in. So you've got no choice these days. So you've got I've got a water bill. And I use, I think for one person, the average household would use 161 litres a day. That would be normal.
Okay.
And I use less than that. I use 140.
Right, yes. So you do save a bit of money, hopefully.
Yeah, no. They put my bill up from £35 a month to 40.
Oh, for goodness sake, that's just absurd. Well, I think South West Water have a lot of questions to answer. Just before you go, Carol, I know you haven't had your sorrows to seek in the last couple of years. I just wonder, how are things? How are you keeping?
Well, things are not particularly good, Peter, I've got to say. I'm managing. Put it that way.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm managing, which is all I can do. I'm an old woman, and I'm just plodding on, and I'm just managing. But thank you for being so kind to us.
That's okay, Carol. And listen, thank you for your call. And do ring in any time in the evening shows as well. I'm on between 7 and 10 Monday to Friday. Carol, really lovely to talk to you. And it's funny, actually, just, people listen to the radio or to watch the TV at different times of the day and so on. And there are certain people I've missed, to be honest, like Carol, a great caller who, when I did the morning shows on the weekend, Carol would ring in every now and again. Great caller, really interesting stuff to say, fascinating stories and very sad stories occasionally with her husband was very unwell before he died. And just people like Carol really remind me why I do this job. And because people listen and watch at different times of the day, you miss people at different times, and maybe the evening isn't quite the time for them or whatever. So it's just always good to reacquaint myself with these people, just filling in today and yesterday for Mark Dolan. Felicity is in London and has some thoughts on water companies as well. Felicity, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
How do you do, Peter? And what a lovely friendly greeting you gave to that lady that you'd spoken to before.
She's great.
I think every public person would do that.
Well, Felicity, thank you. She's a nice person, and you do get to know people, even though you're on the radio and you're talking to people. You do sometimes get to know regular callers and different people and so on. So it's the privilege of this job.
Oh yeah, I can imagine, and we all get to know people now by phone or WhatsApp or whatever, and never meet them. So
That's
well
it.
done, you. I wanted to say I think two of your stories come together today. The alert and the water charges. I'm absolutely flabbergasted by the idea that these water companies should put up our charges when they've paid out so many dividends.
Well, exactly. Exactly.
And when their directors have had such huge fees. Now, I know you can't very readily change that in the private sector because of all the legal ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
But I am quite astonished that it isn't possible to have some sort of simple regulation that doesn't turn it into a public company, that would require a certain number of reservoirs to be built based on the population.
Yeah.
Well,
Felicity, that is a very, very good point. Surely there is some framework where you say, right, okay, you're a privatised company, but you've got responsibilities here. This is not an optional thing. People need water. They need it to their homes. They need it to be to come in and to be taken away. This is a service that has to be, everybody has to have it. You have these monopolies. You can't say, well, I don't like that company. I'm not going to take the water from them. I'll take them from someone else, which you can do with energy companies, for example, even though it's the same energy. It's just moved in different ways. But the point, Felicity, is a really good one. You say, where is the responsibility from these companies to say, hold on a second, it's not about government. It's not about the state sorting this out. It should be the companies themselves. I think that's a really, really good point, Felicity.
Well, the way in which I think it ties in with your other story is that conceivably, if we'd had adequate reservoirs, these alerts may not have been necessary because the water would have been there for the firefighters where it was needed, or perhaps they could, as I think somebody else suggested, be restricted to those areas where it was absolutely essential.
Yeah, really good points there, Felicity. Excellent call, Felicity in London there. Whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, join Felicity, pick up the phone, 0344 499 1000. You can join me on the line between now and 10. We'll go to the debate desk in a second, but I just want to play a few voice notes first. Let's hear from Diane on the barbecue alarm. Don't go to B&Q, folks.
Morning, Peter. Long time no speak. The barbecue alarm. Fortunately, my alarm is off. But the famous words, lessons will be learned. I quote to you 1970, Dennis Howell, Labour of course, given the infamous role of drought minister. 56 years on, need I say more?
Need you say nothing more, Diane? I think you've said absolutely everything. You've encapsulated that brilliantly in your 21-second voice note. Let's hear from Michael on Kemi Badenoch.
Morning, Peter. Michael from Staffordshire. Just a really quick one on Kemi Badenoch. It seems like confidence beats competence. Getting up and saying a few scripted lines every PMQs does not make it competent. I haven't seen any competence. And telling people to vote for somebody who isn't Conservative against Nigel Farage is not what's best for the country. So I can't trust Kemi, I'm sorry. doing what's best for the Conservative Party, getting rid of Farage so he doesn't get rid of them, is not what's best for the country. So, no, she lost it with me when she said that. Anyway, not too bad a day in Staffordshire. Catch you later. Great show. Keep it going, lad.
Michael, thanks very much indeed, and thanks for the kind words at the end there. Just when it comes to Kemi unscripted, there's a very good video of her with a pro-Palestinian protester, where she really, unscripted, does a very good job of standing by her principles and just saying, look, we disagree, we're not going to agree, but these are the way things are, and you're wrong. And I just thought that was a really good piece of unscripted Kemi Badenoch. So maybe that's worth having a look at. But listen, I think your points stand, and I think they're very good, Michael. James has been in touch on the government's role.
Good morning, Peter. Now, I'm getting sick to death of this government. We can't do this. We can't do that. When are we actually going to have a government that actually starts doing things rather than talk, talk, talk? That's all they ever do, Peter, is talk. Talk absolute nonsense. So this Andy Burnham is going on a listening tour. Well, I'll tell you what, he should clear his ears out. He's got no intention of stopping these boats, Peter. Where on earth are we going to be, Peter, in 5 or 10 years' time if every single day this carries on and on and on? This is what scares me. The demographic change of England and Great Britain forever. And there's no coming back. Thank you very much for listening to my voice note, Peter, and keep up the great work that you always do. Thank you.
James, thank you. Really good points there, and thanks for your kind message at the end as well. Lisa has been in touch on Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Morning, Peter. It's Lisa from Canterbury. Quite honestly, I'm fed up to the back teeth of everybody always on about Andrew and hounding him with investigations. What about the hundreds of thousands of men that have probably got all their names protected? We need to release those as well. It's not just Andrew. Thank you. Bye.
You're absolutely right. It is not just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. There's so much more on the Epstein scandal and so much more that should be looked into. Thank you for that. Amanda has been in touch and says it's extremely worrying to hear so many people are choosing to switch off their emergency alerts. Well, the problem is if the government's going to send out an alert which essentially says don't buy a disposable barbecue, they're going to take them less seriously. Amanda, your point's a good one, but the emergency alert should be that. They should be literally, Vladimir's about to vaporise you, not don't go to B&Q. Sean in Gloucester says Dr. Rakib is great because of that, and because of that skin colour background or any other nonsense, it doesn't enter the equation. He's a great man, intelligent and eloquent. End of story. Sean, great message. Totally agree with you. We'll go to the debate desk in a second for two more great men. Paul Richards, former Labour Special Advisor, and Phil Dave, talk presenter and broadcaster. Lots to discuss with them and with you, I hope, too. Get your message in, get your call in, get your text in. The main number is, of course, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
The other main parties, Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, they didn't turn up. They bottled it like a bunch of cowardly chickens. And in so doing, they were greatly rude and discourteous to the Clacton constituents. And sure, not everyone's going to like a particular candidate, in this case, Nigel. And they were left with having to vote for a bin. And I just think it is a grave discourtesy. What it actually shows is that all the other parties, they threw themselves in the bin.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lovely message from Elisa in Chelmsford. So much love this morning. So many kind people sending in messages. Thank you. Elisa says, my goodness, Peter, so many fantastic guests today, feeding my addiction to your brilliant show. Well, it's Mark Dolan's show, but my usual show, of course, is on Monday to Friday, 7 till 10. And I will be back tomorrow evening in, 35 hours? Is that right? Yes, 34 and a half hours, yes, for the 7 o'clock evening exchange on Monday night. So speaking of brilliant guests, let's go to Paul Richards and indeed Phil Dave. Lovely to see you both. Paul is a former Labour Special Advisor. Phil is, of course, a talk presenter and broadcaster. Thank you both for joining me on the debate desk this morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, nice to see you.
Good morning.
Good
How
to
are you
see
in the middle of your, what is this, 12 show stint, is it?
I can't actually remember. I think it's...
It must be 12.
I'm not going to work it out.
Yeah, no, I think it's 12.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There are going to be 17 shows in a row.
Oh, 17 in a
Yes,
row. I'm so sorry.
But this is only show 7, so
Oh,
yeah,
dear.
7 of 17. Yes,
Oh,
that's
okay.
right.
No,
Although
I
I
do
didn't do
apologise.
Wednesday because I was ill on Wednesday, so that was
That's true.
you know,
Yeah,
Friday.
you're skiving, really.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
You missed the solar eclipse.
Yes, it's really funny actually because I was speaking to someone who we all know, but I'm not going to say who it is. Who's a bit kind of. Sometimes a bit kind of woo-woo, a little bit kind of, you know, sort of tree-hugging, rainbow, worship the rainbow type. Lovely person who went, yeah, I just, you know, it really spoke to me, the eclipse, you know, I really thought it was very kind of, and I said, dark? Which I was quite pleased with.
It really spoke to me. What an extraordinary way of putting it.
Anyway, it wouldn't be fair to say who it is. Anyway, let's talk about water. This is a big story people want to talk about this morning, and you know, Phil, and you'll know as well, Paul. You know, you never quite know when you start doing a programme what people are going to want to talk about. And this water issue is the number one thing people want to talk about. Water firms, front page of the Sunday Telegraph, water firms charging more in droughts. Anger as companies to be given the green light to increase bills at times of high demand. Should they be able to charge consumers higher prices during the droughts? This is plans backed by the government. 0344 499 1000, whatever you think on that. What is the Paul Richards line on this?
Well, it's an attempt in the short term to manage demand, but the bigger picture is that people are furious with water companies. They feel like they are profiteering out of something which basically falls out the sky. As a nation, we have not managed our water system well at all over 50 years.
It's not falling out of the sky a lot recently, though.
No, exactly, which is why we need reservoirs, which we haven't been building reservoirs. Andy Burnham announced sort of temporary reservoirs on farmland yesterday with a £63 million investment in that. But that's just a temporary fix. But the big problem, I think, is the ownership. And I think there's now an interesting conversation which is more non-ideological than it has been
I'm a total socialist.
Years.
I am a total socialist when it comes to water.
We need these to be...
Nationalise the whole thing.
In some sort of public hands. Now, I wouldn't go down the 1970s nationalisation route with a sort of national water board and a Sir somebody or other running it. But I think there are models of local control.
Might be better than the current model.
Well, it might be, but I think it'd be quite expensive. I think you could, though, have mutual models, co-op models, local models, ways of doing it where it doesn't cost the taxpayer a fortune to compensate the owners of these companies.
I wouldn't want to compensate any owners. I wouldn't want any shareholder.
Well, no, you are a total socialist then. There's compensation without nationalisation without compensation.
I'm not talking about seizing control. Well, I'm a socialist when it comes to healthcare. I'm a socialist when it comes to education. The point is, I mean, I would basically, well, I wouldn't ban private schools, but I would make the schools so good that private schools weren't needed. Never judge anybody where they send their kids to school, apart from me out of Fanvilla, obviously.
People are just looking at their bills going up while there is water running down the streets where the leaks, they're unrepaired.
Hold on. This texter says, I've just reported a water leak in Maidstone to South East Water. They came back to me saying it had already been reported more than a month ago. Yeah, well, do something about it.
A month.
Totally and utterly. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to pretend for a moment that water firms are in line or appropriately paid by any stretch of the imagination. There are a lot of faults in terms of the amount they pay their shareholders, in terms of the way that they do not maintain the pipes and all of that. I get all of that. However, I do hate with an absolute passion gaslighting, regardless of what side of the fence it comes from.
It's a different utility anyway.
Very good. Because let's be honest, this is not because water firms are charging because they're... Well, because of droughts or using it as an excuse. It's because ultimately there is a need to manage supply and demand. If the water did dry up, we'd be in an awful lot more trouble.
Yes, but the net result for consumers is that that's how it feels.
Of course it does, and I completely agree that the optics of it are terrible, right? It is a really, really bad look when there is a dreadful drought on at the moment. Firms turn around and say, oh, OK, well, we're going to ban hose pipes, but actually we're going to charge more for water as well. I can't help but think that the bigger picture here would be that if the reservoirs and indeed whatever reservoirs we have, but if the reservoirs and indeed the actual supplies ran dry, we'd have an awful lot more to say about it. So if this is a deterrent to actually stop people overusing water, then...
But is it overuse? I mean, there are going to be people who... There are lots of people who overuse water, lots of people who aren't responsible with water. That's fine, that's a fact, and a reasonable point to make. The fact is, we know, as it is with lots of other utilities, as it is with heat, as it is with food and other things, a lot of people are going to be fine because the difference between a water bill of £150 and £200 a month is okay for them.
Some, yeah.
For some. There are going to be a lot of people who will take action and try to reduce their water bills and do the responsible thing and all the rest of it. But there are going to be people who, and often people who are pretty vulnerable people, who are going to say, I'm not going to take a glass of water, I'm not going to take a bath, I'm not going to wash my clothes.
Also, Peter, I think people wouldn't mind necessarily an increase in their bill if they thought it was then going to repair the creaking system and they got a better system out of it.
The fact that I would mind an increase in my bill.
The fact that the money is going straight into the pocket of shareholders, often who aren't even UK-based.
Why can't we just take the money at the moment?
That's what sticks in the craw.
This is a nonsense. People say, oh, raise taxes for the NHS, you know, sort out this by raising taxes. And look, Tony Blair's 1 penny for national insurance for the NHS was a popular quote-unquote tax. The fact is we've got the highest burden of taxation since records began. We've got a huge cost of living crisis. We've got bills. My water bill, I've moaned about this a number of times this morning, my water bill has gone up 100% in the last 5 years. The water doesn't come out any cleaner. It doesn't go away any quicker. It's the same product. I don't want it to go up. I'm sure there are loads of people who don't want any increase or any extra taxation or any problem.
That's fair.
Totally. What they need to do is they need to actually sort of look very carefully at the amount they are paying shareholders and saying, look, is this appropriate in this day and age where, given that supplies are clearly sort of running, no pun intended, a bit dry, but also to say...
I think that pun was fully intended.
Well, I think maybe it was fully intended, but anyway, you know what I mean. Like, if they're saying supplies are running a bit dry, and also not to mention that people are struggling with the cost of living, that's where they should be looking first, and they should also be looking very carefully at the service they are providing. All of these scams we're hearing about, or scandals we're hearing about, in terms of sewage being dropped into various... It's disgusting, you know. They need to sort this out. And if they are going to charge more, they really need to sort of make it something worth paying for first before they think of charging.
But that was the point I was trying to make. You've got to pay for it. You know, you've got to have it. It's these companies are monopolies as well. There's no option. It's not as if you can say, right, well, I'm going to change my energy bill from, you know, Octopus to British Gas or whatever. I still find it bizarre that, you know, a gas company can be an electricity supplier. But that's not the point. The point is that there is no option. It is a captive market.
And Thames Water is going to be the test case, won't it? Because they're the one that's most likely to fall over and the government have to step in some way or other.
Yes.
And it will be interesting to see whether they can do it in a way that doesn't just throw, you know, millions in the direction of shareholders, which I think most people will be quite annoyed by, and then secure the supply. Because, I mean, as you say, the sewage issue where I live in Eastbourne is a serious issue. You know, sewage going into the sea in a town that relies on tourism. And in London, everywhere you go, there's leaks everywhere. It's just running down the street.
I would say to Thames Water, if you're going to fall over, you can sell us the company. We'll buy it for £1.
Yeah,
that's what you're going to get. And if we need to fix all your nonsense and all the many problems that you've created, we'll do that. Leslie says
we fixed that. Well done, everyone.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Just a Cardwellocracy. I just find is the solution. Leslie says it's really worrying when people refer to themselves in the third person. Cardi P would never do that. Leslie says Kemi and her supporters had a right to vote in Makerfield. Why not the same right in Clacton? Mark, visiting Tuscany, lucky you, Mark, says surge water pricing is a licence for water companies to print money and not fix their leaks so they get more money from the higher prices. Lots more to come on this. If you want to give me a ring and let me know your thoughts, 0344 499 1000. We'll be back in the debate desk with Phil and Paul in just a second.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now then, the Mail on Sunday has done some polling with a company called Find Out Now. And in a shock move, loads of people think, oh yes, there should be the distribution of asylum seekers and migrants. Yeah, of course, no, that's the right idea, Andy Burnham. We should distribute them to all sorts of areas, not just poor areas, middle-class areas, rich areas as well. And then you ask the question and say, right, would you be happy for migrants to live near you? Shock horror, hold on to your hats, folks. Only 15% of people want boat migrants near them. More hypocrisy from the left. Paul Richards.
Why is it the left? This is, the polls suggest that people of all voting persuasions don't want to be living next door.
Yeah, but they're saying that...
the left calling out for it, isn't
yes,
it?
but they're saying that 51% of people say that asylum seekers should be housed evenly across all areas of the country. I would argue that most people on the right wouldn't say that. They'd say don't have the asylum seekers in the first place.
I mean, I think the starting point is we want to reduce the numbers, obviously. Get faster people...
I'm not sure it is.
...being processed.
I'm not sure it is, because we have...
Who wants more migrants?
Well, nobody, but
illegal
Minister...
migrants.
But yes, but there's a sort of collective shrug of the shoulders. Andy Burnham says it will be relentless. Right, stop the boats, you know, smash the gangs. We're going to be relentless. How are you going to be relentless? What are you going to do that's different? How are you going to change it? We had a Home Office Minister earlier on this week simply going, oh, well, yeah, it's kind of a problem, and yeah, it's just there, and we just have to distribute these people. Sort it out.
Yeah, well, I agree with that, and it will be in a big election issue, and Burnham knows that, so he is across this, and he wants to. Well, I think so, because
What's he done differently? He's announced loads of different policy in the last 3 weeks. I'm not saying that he's got to fix everything immediately, but what's the intention? He says we're going to be relentless. I'm not sure he is.
Well, the issue is that you can't do a single simple thing, one thing that would make a difference. Otherwise,
yeah, you can.
What constitutional reforms? Is that your solution? You know, having a big row
about
your
solution, Phil?
Straight away, ban all benefits to those who come here illegally. Stop giving them any incentive to be here.
Right, so
and
you'd have 10 cities and beggars on the streets of every city.
Couldn't care less. Let
within
them
a
go
week.
back from whence they came, and now promise
But they wouldn't
they'll
go
live a much
back.
better
They would
life.
just be on the streets without any benefits.
Well, in that case,
begging
it'll be
and
easier to
stealing
round them up and remove the illegals,
living,
wouldn't it?
and living in tents in parks is what you would get immediately with that, and everyone's life would be a lot worse, including
Well, theirs might be.
citizens.
Mine wouldn't be.
Well, it would be.
Mine
actually.
would be a lot better off for it because the taxes
If you
would
had
be
been
so
bothered for
ridiculously high.
money on the street by migrants
I
who
don't
don't
mind being
get any
bothered for
kind of
money. I
support
don't mean I'm going to give
whatsoever.
them. They've got enough of my money.
One at a time, Phil.
All right, well, they've basically got enough of my money, so I'm not going to give them any more if they beg on the streets. It drives me absolutely bonkers. I'm sorry. There is too many incentives for people to come over here illegally. I know people who have tried to come into this country legally, and their visas are almost impossible to obtain. These are people who are hardworking, who want to contribute to the tax system, who actually want to be good British citizens. They are not allowed to live here and have actually had to go back home in inverted commas because of that, and yet people who come over here illegally are given freebies left, right and centre, allowed to come into this country illegally. And as far as I'm concerned, I think we've got this very, very wrong. Send in the Navy, stop these boats. I'm really so sick of this.
The Navy would tell you that that's not what they're built for. So the Navy hasn't got the equipment or the capability to deal with this kind of super...
Hold on.
Because if that worked, we would have done it, wouldn't we? If it worked, we would have done it by now.
No, we wouldn't. We've got to have too many soft politicians.
First of all, the army are armed. Secondly, are you saying they should be armed so they can shoot migrants?
Shoot migrants,
What?
no, but I am saying that if they were to potentially, how can I put it delicately, when they're still near the shores of France, puncture one of the dinghies, I guarantee they wouldn't come over.
You can do that with a knife, as the French did. You don't need that.
Whatever. I don't really care how they do it, I just don't want these people coming here.
Those special squads of French police who have been specially trained to do this, who are slashing the boats with Stanley knives, we need to do more of that. And on the French side, a lot of the gendarmes are just standing around doing nothing because they haven't been on the training.
Well, it's worse than that.
Because they haven't been on the training course.
They're actively facilitating it. You don't need a training course. I'll do it for free. I've slashed things.
But you wouldn't, though, because these are armed gangs and they are very dangerous of mafiosi-type gangs who would see you off. That's why you need trained paramilitaries to do it.
You don't need training to slash a boat.
Yeah. Can I
you need training to deal with armed gangs. Hold on. You do need training to armed gangs. I totally accept that.
Because when these idiots go from this country on a boat and try and do it themselves, these vigilantes, they get into all kinds of trouble. So we're not condoning condoning or encouraging that, are we, Peter?
Of course not. Phil?
We're not condoning or encouraging violence from everyday citizens, but you can understand why people are getting angry about this. And as far as I'm concerned, you looked at me with some level of disgust when I suggested about sort of arming the armed forces to potentially sort of...
Who are armed anyway.
...forced these individuals.
The Navy
back
don't
from
want
where
to
they
do it.
came.
The Navy will tell you that's not what we're for.
Maybe,
We've got
but then
drones.
they need to follow instructions then. But it's very simple as far as I'm concerned. If there are individuals who are breaking into this country who mean us harm, I don't care if we mean them harm, to be honest. Why should I?
I don't want anybody to be harmed. I don't want anybody to be
but I
killed
want
or
British
to die.
citizens to be put first.
Yeah, of course I agree with you, Phil, but I also don't want to go around, shooting anybody. Right. More than 330 British people have their mobile phones nicked every day. This is a really big problem. Paul.
Do you know who I blame for this? Most of all, well, I blame the criminals, the criminal gangs, and all the people that are, it's a very sophisticated system of selling these phones on. But I blame the phone companies. Why can't they install some sort of device inside a phone which disables it and makes it have no value?
That exists.
But even the actual the hardware, right?
Yeah,
to make that useless, a drop of acid which explodes with the minute you press a button somewhere centrally, because the whole business model of this is that the phone companies then replace your phone, and they have created a business model where there is a value. Now, criminals go after where there is value. They used to steal the lead off the church roof, now they're nicking your phone. If that phone is worthless, that crime stops overnight, and that's the phone company's responsibility.
We all know how that was tackled, don't we? They shut down Christianity in this country.
Hold on, Phil. The point with the phones, though, is an interesting one. I mean, first of all, I think that's a good idea. Secondly, there is very widely used technology, Find My Phone, Find My iPhone, whatever it is, that says to the forces of law and order in this country...
Oh, I know. We know where they are.
Yeah.
My
But they don't go and get them.
My son's phone got stolen as he...
Sorry to hear that.
Yes, he was OK. I mean, it was sort of quite late in Soho, and I did say to him, what do you think was going to happen as you waved about your phone in the middle of the night? But anyway, he was fine. A lot of people aren't.
It's not his fault.
And then we watched it. We watched the phone, first of all, go to the tent city in the top of Hyde Park overnight there, and then it went to an address in Cricklewood, which we watched it go up there, and then disappeared. Now, that is a supply chain of a business, which is very lucrative for people. We didn't even bother asking the police, because that house would have been full of stolen phones, but he got a new phone the next day, carried on with his life. Now, why do the police not go to these addresses? Because you can see, as you say, where they are.
But out of interest, why do you say he shouldn't wave his phone around? Because as far as I'm concerned, that's not OK. We should live in a country where we can wave our phone around.
Well, of course.
It would be nice, but also it's reality.
Yeah, no, it's reality because people are not tough enough. That's the bottom line. Unfortunately,
what's it got to do with people being tough enough?
The authorities have not been... I don't mean individuals.
You've not met my son, have you?
I don't mean individuals. I mean the authorities not being tough enough, saying
Who would win in a fight between your son and Phil Dave?
Don't even think there's a contest here, and I haven't even met your son, so don't you worry about it.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that. I'm not going to speculate on that.
Well, it depends whether you're talking physical fight or verbal fight. But anyway, let me be really clear on this. I'm talking about actual authorities coming down heavy on individuals who carry out these criminal acts. Like you said, you didn't even bother telling the police because you know, as well as we all do, that unfortunately you call the police, they'll just give you a crime reference number so you can claim off the insurance.
The thing is that your son's phone being nicked is not part of these 230 statistics.
No, exactly.
Because we know it happens. There was someone in our office who had their phone and other things nicked recently.
All the time.
It just happens.
You go to central London, it is but like I say, it's only based...
And loads of different places in the country as well. We're not London Centric Station.
No, we're not. But it does make the point that it is a very lucrative business model that has been created. This is not poor, desperate people doing it for, to feed their families. This is a very sophisticated business we have created by giving these dead phones value. If you remove the value, you remove the crime, and they'll start robbing Rolexes instead, or whatever else. But at least that very awful experience of having your phone stolen, which of course most of us don't. I don't even know what you do next.
I do wonder though how they actually get them out of the country though. Seriously, I'm not being flippant here. I do actually wonder this, because if you think about if one goes through the legal channels of actually leaving through an airport, you're scanned, you go through airport security, surely they would see a load of mobile phones in there.
They sometimes go in shipping containers. They go in all sorts of different ways. There's whole documentaries about it. What do you think about this? Have you had your mobile phone nicked? What did you do next? Did you even report it? Do you think the police can crack down on this? Can they actually deal with it? It's not just in cities, it's in lots of other places too. 0344 499 1000, that's the number for calls. It's also the number for voice notes. I just want to play 3 voice notes now. They're all on water, which is a big issue this morning. Steve's been in touch.
Good morning all, Steve from Surrey. Recently got a water bill from Affinity Water for £385. Contested it because it's only me that lives here, and the bill came back with a very polite, "We're sorry, your bill is £127. Now, if I'd have paid that first bill, would they have told me? No, they wouldn't have, because that's what they did last time. Great show as always. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Steve. I think I might be calling on you to negotiate some of my water bill, which I don't know if I've mentioned this morning. It went up by 100% in the last five years. I think I mentioned it 6 or 7 times. Adrian has been in touch as well with thoughts on water.
Morning. Water everywhere. That is the phrase that a lot of people use, but it's not everywhere. It's quite scarce. The problem is that we are shouting and bawling about people going on about giving dividends to shareholders. Those shareholders are often the pensions that we get every month, every week, every year. So it's not some local bloke down the road who's just making a few bob. The biggest problem is not just the directors getting massive salaries and bonuses, but also the fact that if you've got a gallon of water and you share it out between 2 people, it's okay. If you try and share it out between 10,000 people, you only get a little drop at a time. So the problem is overpopulation and not save the water in the reservoirs. Okay, cheers.
Adrian, thanks for that. And I think there was water near you, actually. You could hear some seagulls in the background there. I do love thinking of people, you know, out and about, listening to their radio in their cars, you know, maybe at their friend's house. There was a lovely message, actually. Do you know what? I'm going to read it out, actually. It was just this lovely message that I sent to my boss, actually. I sent to Danny Morris, the Ayatollah of audio, who's my boss. And it was from a woman called Muriel, who said, "My friend Brenda will pop around for a cuppa when you're on in the background. She always marvels at your hair. She comments, that young fella's a fine head of hair. All Irish people have beautiful thick hair. It's lovely." And I just like the thought of like Brenda and Muriel having a cup of tea and then I'm on in the background. Like it's a nice thing.
Now, why when I've been on it, I've never received a message like that.
Oh well, all right, Phil. Cry me a river, Phil. Might help the water crisis.
There's eggs over here, isn't it? It's people's breakfast.
Well, indeed. Final one from Keith.
We're 1 away from an umlaut.
Morning, Peter. Keith in West Ham. Just a note regarding the water issue. It's about supply and demand. And the demand has never been greater than it is now. Have a look at the population in the UK 2026 compared to the population in the UK in 2016, 2006 and 1996. There hasn't been a major reservoir built since 1992, and that was in Derbyshire. So if they're not providing the infrastructure and the extra water, of course there's going to be a problem. Anyway, thanks for the great show. Keep doing it. Ta-da.
Keith, great message. I had a ludicrous interview with the then Environment Secretary, Steve Reid, at one stage. He was talking absolute nonsense. When I put out the point to him and said, surely it was about water, it was about sewage, it was about infrastructure, and I said, surely the population increase and immigration has had an impact here. It was a really straightforward, fair question. He just went for me. I said, you know, classic talk, moaning about immigration. I'm sorry, if you have more people in the country, it is going to have an effect on infrastructure. Lots of people in touch about water as well. Carol in Bournemouth says about water, we don't shower often. We don't now use a washing machine, dishwasher because we can't afford the electric bills as well, says Carol in Bournemouth. I mean, this is just grim how people are living at the moment. I'm sorry to hear that, Carol. Neil says the phone thieves, Cardi P, are selling them for spare parts. The memory chips, processors and screens have good value, so having a kill switch is not actually going to solve the problem. And Deb says, here we go. Deb says, I love Phil Dave. Always try to listen when he's on. No messing. Just says it as is. So we got the love for Phil Dave. He's got a big smile upon his face, and he is not going to leave us to become a security guard for Paul Richards' son.
No.
Stay with us here on Talk.
other main parties, Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, they didn't turn up. They bottled it like a bunch of cowardly chickens. And in so doing, they were greatly rude and discourteous to the Clacton constituents. And sure, not everyone's going to like a particular candidate, in this case Nigel, and they were left with having to vote for a bin. And I just think it is a grave discourtesy. What it actually shows is that all the other parties, they threw themselves in the bin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Jason Arday's death on Friday, the Cambridge professor who was, very sadly, but factually making up lots and lots of lies about his past. Well, his death has been reacted to by many people, including our viewers and listeners. Big controversy about that. The Prime Minister has some thoughts on that too. This clip isn't great quality. The sound isn't fantastic. It's quite windy. We didn't record it. It was another media organisation. But you can just about hear what the Prime Minister was saying.
It's a tragedy on so many levels, but particularly just for everybody who knew Jason, his family, obviously, his friends. We think of them today. It's not a moment for any rushing to judgment. It's a moment for reflection, I would say, reflecting on how things came to this. A really sad and sorry state of affairs, and I think we just all today think of Jason, his contribution.
Not a moment to rush to judgment. Many people have on all sides of the political spectrum. There's been a lot of commentary over this issue over the past few weeks, and indeed since Jason Arday's tragic death. Phil Dave.
Look, I think that all this highlights to me is the perilous nature of DEI. And I know full well that there are going to be people outraged by this, because at the centre of this is a man who ultimately has lost his life for whatever reason. And of course, that is horrible, no doubt about it. But I can't help but think that if certain institutions weren't given DEI targets, maybe Jason Arday might still be alive.
What about the press? Was he hounded by the press?
No, listen, don't get me wrong, there certainly was an element of that as well. And who knows, I guess we will never know what the motives were that ultimately led to the fact that he is now no longer with us. But I still can't help but think that all of this could have been avoided if we just go back to the old school method of people being awarded positions purely on merit, because of course that in itself is the least racist policy.
Paul?
I mean, he was treated differently because of his race in positive ways and in negative ways. So some people thought they were doing him a favour and they wanted to showcase his talents and his attributes in ways that then he had to feel to embellish and go along with.
Didn't have to.
And then there were obviously other, all the racists were cheering when he was brought down as well. And both of those things can be simultaneously true.
It can also be simultaneously true where people can say, not thinking about the race issue, but simply it is a good thing that someone has been exposed by good journalism.
And, well, yes,
as someone who is a systematic liar who created an artifice around him.
Am I a racist for being pleased that he was brought down?
I would just point out that there's a dozen academics who've plagiarised, who've had to resign, who've been involved in all kinds of academic scandals, whose names we don't know. Because they're not being held up as this sort of poster boy for racial equality, and that he was not treated the same as other Cambridge academics who were found out for plagiarism.
So is Cambridge to blame? Is our academic institutions to blame as well?
Yes, I think they are to blame. I think their aftercare needs to be looked at as well. What happened next? I am reminded of the Samaritans reporting guidelines on suicide, which is you cannot ascribe motive to somebody who's taken their own life. You shouldn't say it's
we're not doing that.
It's because of this or that, because that's not how that works. And I would encourage people to look at the Samaritans website and understand suicide better than perhaps we do. But it's just overall, though, you know, the man had a wife and children, and it's just a terrible, terrible tragedy.
Okay.
Yeah, for no doubt about it. But do you seriously not think that DEI policy has got nothing to do with this situation?
I don't think Paul said that.
No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying he was treated differently because he was black by the academic, the people around him who wanted to promote him and put him in videos and stick him on the TV and the radio, and it created an environment for him which obviously was too much to take. And I mean, we all know people who do this. They do embellish their background. They do tell lies about the things they've achieved.
Rachel Reeves.
And people do it in professional settings, you know, and they often get away with it.
This was on a huge scale. I mean, this was
industrial, of course, yes.
Okay.
I can only say I live in hope that we will live in a day and age where people will stop looking at skin colour of all backgrounds. I live in hope that that will happen one day.
Thank you both very much.
You're welcome.
Paul Richards, former Labour Special Advisor, Phil Dave, talk presenter, broadcaster and potential bodyguard. Loads to discuss in the next hour. 0344 499 1000. Thanks to everybody who's contributed so far. Lots more to come between now and 10, and of course Alex Phillips between 10 and 1. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, it's just gone 9 o'clock. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Peter Cardwell. It's lovely to be here sitting in for Mark Dolan this weekend only. He's on his hollybobs and will be back next weekend. I'll be here, of course, during the week between 7 and 10 in the evenings, as I always, or almost always am. Loads to discuss this morning, including paedophiles avoiding jail under Labour's sentencing law change. We'll talk about prisoners had hidden phones seized after the government issued its emergency wildfire alert. I expect they had a gut feeling it wasn't the best idea to have them. We'll talk to Peter Blexley in a second, former Metropolitan Police detective, crime commentator and king amongst men. We'll talk about Andy Burnham targeting middle class with asylum seekers. There's so much happening in Piddington. We'll speak to the chairman of the parish council as well. Sir Michael Fabricant will join us, the former Conservative MP, as well, on all the politics. And in this hour, on this time, on this network, on this day, the return to the airwaves of the Titan himself, Tech Up Dave. He'll be talking about what else? Biscuits. Stay tuned for that before the end of the programme, and of course stay tuned too for Alex Phillips between 10 and 1. As always, I want to hear from you. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text, so it comes up on the screen in front of me. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram at CardwellPeter. You can send me a WhatsApp text message. You can send me a WhatsApp voice note, less than a minute please. We'll play out as many of those as we can between now and 10, and we'll have as many calls as we can. The way to get your call on the air, 0344 499 1000. Let's get started here on Talk Breakfast. Jane says, Phil Davis spot on. Legal or not, these people haven't paid in. They don't deserve benefits anyway. Speaking about migrants, I do wish Paul would stop covering for Labour. Surely he must see what a shower they are. I live near Starbridge. Did I go to see Burnham? Did I heck? Twerp. Love the show, Peter, says Jane. Leslie says, we are told Burnham is a great orator. He says, all the time. Leslie says, Paul said Burnham is concerned about migrants because of the next general election. Not concerned about the country then. Terry and Slough says, what's the difference between a battery and this useless and incompetent Labour government? A battery has a positive side. I see what you did there, Terry. I also have a positive side, as does Terry. Barry says, the Navy have to follow orders from the government. It's a nonsense and naive to suggest they can refuse. And Steve says, distribution of migrants don't make me laugh. The reason they are now putting them in nicer areas is because the working class areas are now full. This has been caused by inept politicians. Keep your messages coming in. I want to talk a little bit about the emergency alarm. It happened just a day and a half ago, 7 o'clock. I was on air, actually, or about to go on air, more accurately, and it went off during the news at 7 o'clock. Loads of reaction on Friday night at 7 o'clock. We've heard from people on trains, in restaurants, whatever your experience. I'd be interested to hear from that. But prisoners had hidden phones seized after the government issued its emergency wildfire alert. Let me tell you, as someone who worked for the Ministry of Justice as a special advisor, there are people who get phones into prisons, and I don't want to go into too much depth at 9:05 in the morning to discuss how they get them in, but you can use your imagination. Peter Blexley, former Metropolitan detective, is with me now, and these phones have now been exposed for many of these prisoners. I would imagine more than a few of them, Peter, had a gut feeling it wasn't the best idea.
Yes, I mean, this story is, hysterical and depressing in equal measure. It's absolutely hilarious. The prisoners were found out because the government alarm went off. I'm all for discipline in prisons, and if they're having their phones seized, and apparently it's happening in considerable numbers, then I'm thrilled about that. But it's also depressing that so many prisoners are allowed or have been able to smuggle these phones, to conceal them and to use them in the prison estate where discipline should be king, but clearly, sadly, isn't.
Yeah, I remember when I was a special advisor at the Ministry of Justice that we were introducing those arches that can do a whole body scan. And the fact is, if you just do a metal detector search, it doesn't always bring them up. And when you do the whole body scan, of course, you know, I'll try and be as straightforward as I can, but as it was once described to me, you know, prisoners of orifices, and basically things are smuggled in, especially very, very high value items. But it says a lot about our prisons that so many of these phones got in the first place, Peter, and what a huge problem there is with things being smuggled in. It's not just people as well. There are drones that bring things in. There are all sorts of things, drugs and other contraband that are smuggled into prison. Maybe that's just supply and demand, but I think there must be a way to make things better in that regard.
Well, I was speaking to somebody on Friday who has a relative that was locked up for drug dealing quite recently. And this relative did not take drugs, but they were a drug dealer. So quite rightfully and properly, they got locked up. That's good news. The bad news is that since he's been in prison, he's developed a spice habit. Now, spice is a particularly pernicious, horrible drug. And apparently, according to this relative who only went to visit him in prison last week, this prisoner now is so addicted, his mental health is in an absolute state, and that's a habit that he's gained whilst being in prison.
Yes,
so then we
yes.
couple that with his phone story, there's obviously a huge problem with a lack of discipline and order being maintained in our jails. No wonder so many people come out and reoffend. And of course, that's only going to get worse in October when we have thousands more prisoners released early.
I was in the I visited Belmarsh prison. They did eventually let me out, and I remember talking to someone about this, about spice coming in. And the thing with spice, as you will know, Peter, of course, is that it can be a very, very small tab, a piece of paper. And what was often happening was you would have, I mean, quite literally, this is a blank piece of paper. What you would have, and I mean, it literally happened, was prisoners' children, in inverted commas, would send in quote unquote artworks, and the artwork would literally be like that, would literally be like two pieces of, two lines of colour from a colouring pencil or from a highlighter or whatever on a piece of paper, and they'll say, oh, that's a children's artwork, they have to send it in. What would happen was the piece of paper would be saturated with spice and then dry, and they'd tear it off, tiny little thumb-sized pieces of paper which would have spice on it, and the prisoners would smoke that or take that, and that's how they got it in. And I said, well, can't you just photocopy things, or can't you just, test it or whatever? And he said, how would we have the resources to do that? Because every piece of mail, every piece of paper would not need to go to the prisoners. There are some prisons where they do photocopy things, and they've sort of dealt with it that way. But prisoners are very resourceful. They're very innovative people. And and when the authorities innovate, they innovate too.
Criminals are entrepreneurs. Yep. They're always adapting and thinking of new ways in which to commit crime, smuggle drugs, conceal drugs. They're very innovative, which is why law enforcement is forever playing catch up with the bad guys. And this comes as no surprise whatsoever. But it really is a major, major problem, because if you go into prison to serve your punishment and you come out not rehabilitated, not reformed, but in a worse mental and physical condition than you were before you went in, then continuing your life of crime becomes an inevitability. And with so many prisoners being released just a few weeks down the line, it's obvious that we're going to have a spike in crimes, which will create more victims of crimes, which will create more work for the police, and will simply mean that Britain is less safe.
Peter, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the Telegraph story about paedophiles avoiding jail under Labour's sentencing law change. What's happening there?
Well, because of the new Sentencing Act that's coming in, jail sentences of 12 months or less are basically being suspended as opposed to being enacted. So if you commit a crime that merits, in the judge's eyes, a 12-month sentence, you won't serve it, it will be suspended. This is all part of the government's efforts to prevent prison overcrowding. There was an appalling case last week of a man who got drunk, got behind the wheel of his scaffolding van, flipped the scaffolding van on a roundabout and killed somebody. And the judge said, this merits a custodial sentence, but only one of 6 months, and therefore he suspended it. So the people who had lost that loved one to an irresponsible drunk driver didn't see him go to prison. And that is not only tragic, it is scandalous.
You're absolutely right. We have statistics as well today. 230 mobile phones stolen every day in this country. We were talking to a guest just a few minutes ago. He said his son had his mobile phone stolen, didn't even tell the police, just wasn't worth it. Just why bother reporting it? So that 230 statistic won't even tell the whole story because so many people just don't report it. What do you make of that, Peter?
There is only one criminal statistic that can be trusted, and that is murder, the number of murders, because they are not concealed. We know when somebody is tragically murdered. Every other crime statistic you cannot trust in any way, shape or form, because so many people do not report it when they become a victim of crime. I'm in green rooms on an almost daily basis, and because of my background, people are always telling me their stories of becoming victims of crime. And I say to them, did you report it?
Yeah.
And they invariably shrug their shoulders and say, what's the point? It's not going to get investigated, so we simply didn't bother. But you must, if you are a victim of crime, you must please always report it.
Peter, thank you for that. You have so many attributes as a commentator. You have so much experience. You have a brilliant brain. You also have a fantastic voice. I call you Jack Regan 2.0 because I always think you always remind me a little bit of Jack Regan in The Sweeney. Your voice seems to be slightly struggling today. Could that in any way be related to QPR's 3-1 win over Portsmouth at Fratton Park yesterday? Perhaps a little bit of shouting and happiness that they're top of the league, Peter?
Thank you. It most definitely is. I had the great privilege and pleasure of taking my 3 grown-up sons to Fratton Park, Portsmouth's ground, yesterday. We had a very, very long day. There was a lot of shouting and hollering and celebrating, and I have to confess, alcohol did feature.
Surely not. I won't have it said. Peter, enjoy the weekend and enjoy that QPR being top of the league. Great commentary, as always. Peter Blexley there, one of my favourite guests. He is just a great guy. I went to his show, actually, his brilliant show. I think it's still, it's on until the end of the year, and you can have a look on his website and see where he is. I saw him in Belfast, brought my parents and a friend of mine as well. Really, really nice, really nice evening, but a fascinating show as well that he does. The Makings of a Murderer is his show. Michael's in Birmingham. He's given me a ring on migrants, 0344 499 1000. Michael, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Yeah, if I may, Peter, I'll just pivot slightly because I'm a little bit offended by your Labour advisor.
Okay.
And it's to do with Arday. What binary thinking is this? Right. I am very happy that Arday was brought down, but that doesn't make me a racist, and I'm sad that he's no longer with us.
Sure.
And he comes out and says the racists are happy that he was brought down.
Well, he's not. I don't think he's calling you a racist. He's saying, or indeed Phil Dave or others who are happy that he's come down. He said that there will be some people who think the same things as you, but are also racist too, which of course you're not, Michael. So I don't think he's calling you a racist.
Well, okay. Well, I took it that way anyway. But
okay, sure.
I'm prepared to apologise. But look, what I was happy about, the guy's demise, and I'm sorry for it. Of course, he doesn't deserve that. And I think is it Mr. Cleverly? Is he a Conservative advisor? He said some.
Yeah, he's the shadow housing secretary. Yeah. Yeah.
I read some great words by him. It was obvious that there was some problems there, and it was obvious. But what I'm saying is, why I was happy is the wrong word. Why I thought it was good that this was exposed. I've never heard of him until a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
What I thought was good. I've seen this in my working life for over 30 years. Not to this extent, but I've seen programmes and overly willing appointments of people when they're colleagues of yours, and when you see them in action, you think, this just isn't adding up. This just isn't adding up. And I thought that this might be a watershed moment, but it looks like it's going to be less of a watershed.
Do you know what it is as well, Michael? I'm assuming you're white, like me, Michael. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I have a really good friend who is, I was very close to her at one point when we worked together in South Africa. And South Africa I was there years ago. We're still in contact for many years. Anyway, she's a really, really good journalist. She worked in the paper I worked for, the Cape Argus. She was promoted, and rightly so. She's a film writer. She knows everything about film. She could talk from now till Kingdom Come about sci-fi, about all the different genres. She's really, really good. And on the entertainment supplement, she got kind of her dream job, which was the film writer reviewing films. I mean, what better job could there be for a film buff? Great job. You go to the cinema, you write about it. That's your job. Fantastic job. And I said, Teresa, fantastic, brilliant, well done. That's a really, really well-deserved promotion. And she said, well, it's hollow. It doesn't mean anything to me because I know why they appointed me. They appointed me because I'm a mixed-race woman. Those were not the exact words she used, but she basically said, I am a mixed-race woman. They needed to fill a quota. They needed to tick a box because there weren't enough mixed-race women who were senior on the paper, and that's why I got the job. And I said, well, surely you got the job because you're really good at film writers and you're complete film buff, and that's your job, and you're exactly the right person for the role. I can't think of anybody better for it. And she said, no, I got it because of my race. So it doesn't help anybody. It is not something that is desirable. It is not something that is fair. It is not something that is meritocratic. And, you know, the message, as you correctly pointed out, Michael, and I'll maybe get your response to this in just a second when I read out what James Cleverly said. I just looked it up on my phone. This is the former Foreign and Home Secretary, James Cleverly. He's now the Shadow Housing Secretary. The death of Jason Arday is tragic and makes me so angry, he says. Even the most casual observer could see he was a vulnerable fantasist. A number of people at a number of academic institutions have serious questions to answer. They put him into positions he was clearly not qualified for so they could have a black wunderkind to show off. They pushed him into the spotlight for their own benefit. His exposure was inevitable, a case of when, not if. His whole world fell apart. What do you make of that, Michael?
Well, I think he's hit the nail on the head. And you know, on a personal level, of course I'm sorry for the gentleman and his family. Of course I am. You know, you don't want that.
Yeah.
But let's not have this turned round. This isn't the people that exposed him's fault. This isn't that.
Do you not think the press played a role? Do you not think he was hounded in some way?
Not particularly, because look, I don't want to go into details of kind of like dissing the guy, but you know, he called police and he put heavy duty libel lawyers on people.
That's true.
You know, and he dissed students that questioned him. You know, long time ago. So you know, look, I'm not going to go the guy who's no longer with us.
No, I know what you mean, Michael. But listen, your points are all really, really good and reasonable and factual points. And I think you've made some really, really good points. What do you think happens now, Michael? How do we deal with this? How do we, you know, quite literally learn lessons? I mean, I hate the phrase "lessons must be learned," but there's got to be something positive we can take out of this dreadful tragedy.
No, there isn't, Peter. What I'm finding, what I suspect will happen, and I'm still involved in the public sector, is there'll be a doubling down the other way. So rather than kind of like applying rigour to people who, you know, should have rigour applied to them, they will shy away from applying that rigour, and they might even go even further with it, the opposite way. Yes. I mean, look, I'll just leave you with one point. I mean, this whole DEI thing, right? You know, is it the J.D. Vance thing where it just means exclude white men? I mean, look, the cat's out of the bag about how disadvantaged white working class boys are, and I've yet to see any organisation with a programme specifically to recruit white working class boys.
Very good point. Series of good points, Michael. Great call. Thank you, Michael, in Birmingham. Let's go to Nigel in London on water. Loads of people getting in touch with the big story about water firms backed by the government to charge more in the droughts, more for your water. Nigel, loads of people talking about this morning. What would you like to say? You're very welcome to the programme.
Thank you. Well, good morning. It's very nice, of course, to hear the lifelong man who should be the Home Secretary, of course, is Peter Bleksley. Wonderful words of wisdom as ever.
Yes.
So I enjoyed his performance. He should be the lifelong Home Secretary because he's the only man who's got common sense, who understands everything. So
totally agree,
Peter. But I wanted to mention water and a bit about phones if I can.
Yes.
We are being conned by water companies because let's not forget, Great Britain or the United Kingdom lives in a puddle. We live in the Atlantic. We are floating in the Atlantic Ocean, the North Sea, the Irish Sea, the English Channel. So we are surrounded by billions and billions of gallons of water.
So do you think desalination might be the way forward?
Absolutely. Why don't people see this? Why don't previous governments harness the resources which are next to us? Let's not forget, we keep hearing climate change. Oh, sea levels are rising. Well, we're not going to run out of water now.
Well, I don't think there's any problem with seawater. Just briefly, Nigel, if you could make your point on phones as well before we go to the break.
Yeah, I heard the other two guests. It was a show of the three Ps, by the way, this morning, Peter, Paul and Phil. I wanted to say, when he said about phone theft, let's not forget, police don't want to go after phone thieves, but they're quite happy to go after people who use those mobile phones to make tweets which they don't like. So maybe they should turn it around and chase and capture phone thieves and not phone tweeters.
Well, thank you, Nigel, and good for pointing out about Phil and Paul and me. And thank you for pointing out the 3 Ps there. Glad you gave Ps a chance this morning. Lots to discuss. We'll go to Piddington in a moment. The parish council chairman, Tim McNally, will be with us. The tiny village caught in the centre of Burnham's middle-class asylum plans. Could it be a test case for the future? Stay with us.
The other main parties, Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, they didn't turn up. They bottled it like a bunch of cowardly chickens. And in so doing, they were greatly rude and discourteous to the Clacton constituents. And sure, not everyone's going to like a particular candidate, in this case, Nigel. And they were left with having to vote for a bin. And I just think it is a grave discourtesy. What it actually shows is that all the other parties, they threw themselves in the bin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to everybody who's been in touch. Just had a look through some of the tweets there as well. Susan Haywood says, really enjoying the morning show with Peter Cardwell. Thank you, Susan. What the country is going through with water is what we in Port Elizabeth in South Africa endured for over 3 years. We had a hosepipe ban and had to save water. Yeah, I know there are all sorts of problems with electricity as well in South Africa and various things. Port Elizabeth's gorgeous, by the way. It's a really lovely part of the world. Angela says, I'm finding it increasingly difficult to listen to Andy Burnham. I'm not being horrible, but I thought he was an A1 communicator. Increasingly he looks nervous, unsure. He doesn't speak fluently without ums and ers. I fear it's becoming too much already. What's your opinion? Says Angela. Well, my opinion, firstly, is that I think you're right. And secondly, you're absolutely not horrible at all. You're lovely, Angela, and you're a very valued contributor to my programmes and have been since day one. And indeed, she is the owner of Rodney the cat, who was the very first cat of the week. And speaking of cat of the week, the brains, brawn and intelligence behind it, Tech Up Dave will be joining me a little bit later in the programme. But not before we talk about Piddington. And I'm delighted that Tim McNally is the chairman of Piddington Parish Council. He joins me now. Tim, I think your small village, 314 people, thrust into the media spotlight over the past few days because there's going to be a camp nearby to house 1,250 asylum seekers. Just tell me the effect that has had, even before it happens, on the people of Piddington in Oxfordshire.
Hi, good morning, Peter. Thank you for having us. And I'm sorry this story is going to continue. I do apologise to your listeners. I mean, we're just a tiny little village.
The government should be apologising to you, Tim.
I do wish, and we've done everything we possibly can. So just in terms of the impact on our little village, and it is a little village, we've got 46 children. I personally went to Weatherfields in Essex to just view how an environment which has been running there now for 4 years in its current operational state. I met with neighbours directly opposite the site. When I got out of my car, I can tell you my whole emotion just swelled up with just fury and anger, not just because of the way it is, but because the way these people who are living next to these environments are just silenced. Their opinion, their challenges they have are just not being heard, not being discussed, it's not being reported anymore. And they're suffering from this site's supposed to be contained, but these guys are basically able to roam at will at any time of the day.
It's not a prison. I think a lot of people are under the impression that these are secure sites that are guarded. No. They're absolutely not. People can come and go at will.
At 4 in the morning, they're walking past their properties. Their alarm bells are going off because they're walking in front of their properties. And the security aspect, which I've been calling out right from the very beginning, is they're talking about this blanket which they're wrapping around these solutions and saying, well, but they've all been security vetted. There is no means by which they can security vet these people to a level that is going to be adequate enough for me to actually help our community relax, because they've done all that security vetting, but they can't validate their age. So how can that be done? And then
they can't even guarantee who they are, because a lot of them don't have identity documents or lie about their age or where they're from. So how can you vet someone when you're not acting on correct information?
Correct. And then the other, I'm learning, and what I'm looking for, if anyone out there in your community or anyone knows anyone who knows anyone who can pass me an operational manual for these environments, because I'm finding out through just by chance and by accident that when these guys fail their asylum requests, going through the appeals, whatever they're going to do, they're then exited from these camps with basically a rail ticket to go from the exit of this camp freely to Croydon. So how many actually leave the site?
They're not going to go to Croydon.
Where's the audit between execution of leaving the site and arrival at Croydon for deportation? Just tell me, what is the government doing
why would you voluntarily, if you've taken the risk, and it is a risk to come across in a small boat, if you're someone who has come across in a small boat, you're not going to say thanks very much for the real ticket. I'm going to go to Croydon now. I will happily leave the country because my asylum claim has been denied. It's a farce. We've talked about the kind of big issues. Can you just give me a sense of the practicality of Piddington? You've got 314 people. You've got 46 kids. What's it like? I mean, do you have a village shop that is going to be able to sell enough food for people? Do you have a pub that people can go to? Just tell me what Piddington is like, because presumably it caters for the people who are there at the moment. If you increase the population to 1,550 or whatever it would then be, that's going to be a massive strain on resources.
It is. And, you know, again, looking at the operational manual is important. So Piddington, there's a song being written, it's called The 300. And this guy has done an incredible creative song. Simply no pub, no shop, no pavement, nothing, right? And it's a dangerous, where we live is we're 7 miles away from the nearest town, which if you were to walk that, sadly, there's been a number of fatalities from people being run over on that very road because it's not safe. We don't have any resource for these individuals, whether it be entertainment, whether it be an outlet, an opportunity. There is just nothing. So in terms of practicality...
Hold on. Do you not have a village shop?
No.
You don't have a village shop, and they're putting 1,200 people near you, and they don't have cars, and there's a road that's... I mean, this is madness.
Let me tell you what the consequence of this is what's happened with Weatherfields is now is very serious, because they've been taking these guys out in minibuses, lovely, beautiful luxury minibuses. We don't get one, but they get one, and they get driven to any town. So the towns they're going to be impacting on will be Bicester, because they have a very nice Bicester village, should be very much aware of what's going on there, Banbury, Aylesbury, Oxford, Milton Keynes, Warwick. All of these places are now going to have these men dumped into them during the day, right, to go and entertain themselves in these larger conurbations. And what it's done to Braintree, it's destroyed the footfall. People are not going to Braintree anymore as a consequence. Now, we're not being NIMBYism and saying, oh, you know, we don't want it on our back door. What we're asking for is, don't confuse what Andy Burnham was talking about as wealth. We're not wealthy here. We've got no power. We've got no money. We've got no resources. The houses might be a little bit more expensive, but that's just cost of living. Ultimately, I don't earn any more than anyone else. The issue comes then down to proportionality. So if proportionality is a fair assessment to actually manage this process forward, if there's only 350 of us, quite frankly, we should have one child. Yet if you put it in London, it only represents 0.18% of the population. How is assimilating into a community going to be possible for us doing this?
When is this going to happen? Have you been given a timeline? Have you been? Are you being listened to by anybody?
No, and in fact, on Tuesday this week, as you all know, Andy Burnham was cornered, and he was asked two questions by GB News. One was about the boats, and the other one was about Piddington specifically, and a 7-year-old boy called Rex. Rex has written to Andy Burnham, the Prime Minister, a statesman of this country, to ask him, please, what can we do about the security of our homes? And he said, yes, the good people of Piddington, I'll listen. I don't know the details. I'll have a look. Do you know, every single media outlet on this globe, and I mean on this globe, have reached out to me personally. They've managed to get my email address. They've got my telephone numbers. Everyone can connect with me in an instant. And yet, since the 20th of July, when we had three live TV expressions of our open letter to the Prime Minister on the day of his inauguration, he still hasn't responded.
So that's a month. That's a month. And that's a month since this was announced, since he's been Prime Minister, almost exactly to the day, give or take 3 or 4 days. And you're in a situation where you have not had a response from the government.
The only response we have had, and I'll be honest with you, truthful from my heart, it's on my X account. I run an X account called the Piddington Roars, have had incredible support from around the world and locally and on this great nation. We published there the response that our residents got from the Prime Minister, number 10. They wrote back and said, we apologise, Andy Burnham is not going to be available to come and visit your village. And the issue and matters regarding the asylum site, MOD Site A, we ask you to refer to the Ministry of Defence.
Yeah.
It's just passing the hot potato around.
Of course it is, and he's done that on
the Home Office.
He's done that on a number of issues. He's done that on a number of issues. He's done that on the alert, where he said, "Oh, it's the fire service." He's done that on the PC Andrew Harper stuff, where he says, "Oh, it's the Justice Department." You're the Prime Minister, mate. Occasionally, you do need to take responsibility. Speaking of taking responsibility, he has said on a couple of occasions now, when he manages to mention immigration, which he did not publicly, he did not mention the word immigration. The word was not used in his first week as Prime Minister. It's one of the biggest problems in this country. It's one of the, you know, as you know far better than I do, one of the biggest issues he's going to have to deal with. He said he would be relentless in dealing with this problem. Do you feel he's being relentless in dealing with the problem of asylum?
You know what? I have to be honest with you, Peter. I'm the only relentless person on this globe right now. I'm putting that into perspective. When actually in the 6 weeks that we started this campaign, from the 3rd of July to today, we've now had Kimi Benadotte. She's basically said, right, we're going to step out of the ECHR, the European Courts of Human Rights. She's made that now as a policy statement in her own Facebook account on Thursday this week. We've now got James Cleverly starting to talk about this. So we're non-partisan, right? We are here about the quality of our life. We're here about the quality of our children's security. We've come to an environment, we've made our environment the way it is because we want our children to grow up in a particular way. And this government is going to snuff out those children's childhoods. It's wrong. But I know there's lots of people saying, well, you know, we've got it here. It's your turn to have it. And that's fine. But the people who failed you are your representatives. Your representatives failed to support you in allowing this to come. Why do they fail? Why do they not stand up and protect you as a group of people? That I'm angry about. So I'm angry for you. And so Piddington is not just about, it's a dot on a map. Piddington is a global discussion now. Yeah. It's across the globe, right? You cannot go anywhere without this going on. And what I'm going to say to you is on the 15th of September, we're actually holding our official referendum to secede the United Kingdom. And you know what? I'm going to tell you this. It's on the, I didn't realise, in fact, actually it was Kevin O'Sullivan who mentioned it to me. He said, well, Tim, you know, this is the battle for Britain. And I said, yeah, we're going to be doing this referendum on the 15th of September. And he said, hey, Tim, just wait. And he says, the 15th of September is the Battle of Britain, the anniversary. Right. I mean, if the stars could align for everything that's going on here,
there's a battle.
It's insane.
There's a battle for Britain, I think, and you're fighting it. That's Tim McNally there, Chairman of Piddington Parish Council. Thank you, and I wish you well, Tim. Really interesting to hear from him. Mary's been in touch from County Down and says the government's decision to move large numbers of illegal migrant men into the heart of the British countryside is not simply an accommodation solution, it's a social project. We're increasingly hearing the narrative from the left that the countryside is too white, not welcoming or accessible to minority ethnic people, and there's not enough integration outside of the major urban centres. Forcing rural Britain to accept large numbers of migrant men, not families, is a crass and brutal move that serves a bigger purpose for this globalist government, our rural towns and villages will become more diverse overnight with no increase in essential services, whether they like it or not. Lots to think on there, lots to chew over, whatever you think, however you want to react to this story. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Catherine's been in touch from Melbourne in Australia. She says, I can see the absurdity of the situation about to happen in Piddington from here. This is heartbreaking to watch. Christina says, Reform UK have been shouting from the rooftops for years about coming out of the ECHR. Kemi will have to battle the lefty Liberals in her party, says Christina. And Leslie says, after these migrants throw their documents overboard, does the government supply them with false documents in HMOs? Loads to discuss on this. The former Conservative MP, Sir Michael Fabricant, joins me now. Sir Michael, if you lived in Piddington, what would you think?
I would be thinking I'm going to move out of Piddington if I could. And I can't blame them. I've been listening to that conversation. And, you know, I think to myself, when Keir Starmer got in, what did he say? He said he was going to smash the boats. And now what's Andy Burnham saying is, well, we're going to put all these people into little villages and towns because now it's their turn. And it's completely impractical. I think it's absolutely appalling. I think we all do. And the problem will be is what are they going to do all day? They're being provided these buses and we're an attractive place to go to. What Andy Burnham should be saying, in fact, what the Conservative government when it was in power should have been saying, is we're going to make it so unattractive. We're not going to provide minibuses. We're not going to provide you with free fags. We're not going to provide you with all the benefits that they get. Instead, you're going to have a life of hell if you want to move across to the UK. Instead, the UK is one of the most attractive places to go to, and that's what they think. If you are an asylum seeker, come to Britain. It's the pavements are paved with gold.
Well, it's really interesting, actually, that Mary in County Down read out her views a minute ago about rural towns and villages becoming more diverse. Yes, but overnight with no increase in essential services. Is this, as she believes, by design? Is this the Labour government doing a social experiment? Of course, the Conservatives did to some degree as well, but this is a different move. Most of our cities, towns, villages, they grew organically over the centuries. Now they're growing by force and design, and unsurprisingly, the Tims of this world, who we heard from a minute ago, Tim McNally, the chairman of Piddington Parish Council, they're completely up in arms about this huge and significant change to their life. They don't even have a village shop, Michael.
That's right. And, you know, it's as if Andy Burnham is trying to punish these small villages for being so nice. It's some sort of social experiment to drag. You know, we used to say years ago, and then New Labour came in and changed it, or tried to change it. We used to say that Labour tried to drag everybody down to the equal same grey level. I lived and worked for a while in the old Soviet Union, and that was exactly their policy. I mean, everybody was on roughly the same wages, apart from a few people, but it was all the same grey level. And that's apparently what Andy Burnham is now trying to do. Anywhere nice, he is trying to ruin. And it isn't going to work in places like Piddington.
It's not just Andy Burnham, though, Michael, is it? It's not just Andy Burnham, it's not just Labour. The Boris wave occurred. There were huge levels of immigration. Why is it, including your party that you were an MP for, that time and time and time again in successive elections and referendums, and so on and so on. The government, the politicians, like you used to do, like in the party that you were an elected member for, were told time and time again, sort out immigration, sort out illegal people coming into the country. They haven't done it. There is a lack of political will there, isn't there?
There is. And the problem was in the Conservative Party, maybe it still is, I don't know. I'm now a political commentator. I'm not a member of the, well, I'm a member of the Conservative Party, but I'm not actually in the House of Commons. The problem has always been that the Conservative Party, like so many parties, are an amalgam of different views. And we had what I always used to call the Lib Dem wing of the Conservative Party, holding Boris back, holding Theresa May back, holding all government leaders back, while people like myself, who I thought were true Conservatives, couldn't get legislation through. Now, in fairness, Kemi Badenoch is trying to change all that. She's already started blocking.
I mean, Boris Johnson had an 80-strong majority. He could have done whatever he wanted on this. Instead, there was the Boris wave. He could have.
No, I wish he could, but you know what, Peter? I mean, first of all, Boris may have had his own views, and I don't know exactly what his views were on this, but I can tell you, I was a government whip. An 80 majority is not enough if you've got a major rebellion on your side. And we saw that, of course, with the Labour Party just recently, where they tried to do welfare reforms, but were unable to do so with a huge majority, 140, 160, is it? Because a substantial number of people were against Labour Party policy on welfare. Similarly, we had a whole group of people called One Nation. Far from being One Nation, They were the Lib Dem wing of the Conservative Party, very boringly trying to block anything which would actually have provided a benefit from Brexit. Because they didn't believe in Brexit. They thought they knew better than the people.
But still with Brexit, as all of that going through, get Brexit done, that was the slogan of the 2019 election. We had Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. The Boris wave occurred. I mean, the Conservatives have a huge role to play in the problems that we're having in Piddington right now, and the fact that immigration continues to be a massive, live and difficult political issue. Andy Burnham has inherited, he's only been there 3 weeks, you're blaming him, and that's fine, and he does have a role to play.
I'm not blaming him. What I am blaming him for is policies which he is now bringing in. And he has started to say something which you didn't get under Keir Starmer, you didn't get under other people, i.e., you know what? If you're middle class, if you live in a nice village, you're going to have to take the weight too. This is something new, and this is Andy Burnham trying to appeal to the left wing of his own party.
What's the solution to this? What do you think? If you could wave a magic wand, what would you do to try to sort this? Because there's so many people who say they have solutions to it. There's so many people who say send in the Navy or sort it out or, you know, get the French to do what they're meant to do. What do you personally think is the solution to problems like Piddington and everything that leads up to it? The processing, the boats arriving, the deterrent that doesn't exist. What would you do, Michael?
You know what? I'd make it so unattractive to come to the UK, people will not want to come to the UK. You don't get any benefits if you're an asylum seeker, so-called asylum seeker in France. That's why they come over to the UK. As I said earlier on, people think that the UK is a country whose pavements are paved with gold. And that's because, to some extent, compared to what you get in the rest of Europe, it is. I would actually stop all that. You know, you had a phone call earlier on from someone in Melbourne. I remember years ago being in a place called, I've forgotten the name of it now, but anyway, Northwest Australia. And I wasn't there on any official visit. I was actually on holiday. And I met up with a Royal Australian Air Force guy. And he said, do you want to come up in an airplane with us? And I said, oh, that sounds a good idea. And we went out patrolling. And he was saying, you know what? The nearest capital city is not the capital of Western Australia. It's not, certainly not Sydney, Australia, on the eastern side. It's Jakarta. And he went flying over. We went flying over. They were drinking tinnies, actually, of Foster's, which was slightly worrying because the guy was piloting the plane at the same time. But anyways, And we were spotting these boats coming over from Indonesia, and the Royal Australian Navy were going out and intercepting them and pushing them back. Now, that's a lot harder to do in the English Channel. Why? Because it's not so empty. And B, because there's no high seas. There's no neutral territory. In the English Channel, one bit is English, one bit is French.
Okay.
However, you make life in Britain difficult unless you are here living legally. That would stop them coming over.
OK, Michael, thank you. Sir Michael Fabricant there, former Conservative MP. Dan's been in touch and says illegal migrants must have an ID to be able to receive benefits, then we deport. That's Dan in Plymouth. Leslie says Burnham is still calling the illegals asylum seekers. They broke into this country. Gary on sentencing says the Sentencing Act for suspended sentencing has been increased to 3 years, not 12 months. And Penny on phones in prisons says also abused women have hidden phones, as do men, for various often nefarious reasons. And what a panic there would have been there too in those prisons. Dennis in Cornwall is our final call of the morning. Dennis, you're very welcome. What would you like to say?
Good morning, Kevin. Yes, I'm not have a great knowledge of it, but I wonder why there couldn't be a Faraday cage type blocking of these telephones.
I'm sorry, I don't know what a Faraday cage is. What is that?
It's something that prevents an electrical reading current through it.
Okay.
We have these little wallets called Faraday wallets.
Yes, yes, I've come across those.
So they can't be read.
Yeah, very.
A Faraday cage, but it's not a real cage in the physical terms.
Sure, it's an electromagnetic thing.
Yes,
yeah.
And so the prison service could keep their comms outside the cage. And inside the cage, the prisoners' phones will be useless. I don't quite understand why that hasn't been thought through.
Very interesting point there, Dennis. Thank you. Thanks also to Jason, who says, Phil Dave was bang on earlier. Paul Richards is typical of the left. We can't do this, we can't do that. Just stop the pull factor. Get serious about it. Labour don't have the political will. Elisa has been in touch and says, regarding Wethersfield, I was walking my granddaughter in Chelmsford Central Park when I noticed a big group of illegal migrants that were gathered together to my left in the park, speaking what sounded like Arabic. The minibuses dropped them off in the town centre regularly. I quickly exited the park. Why should we live like this? Whether they had nefarious intentions or not, we simply feel unsafe. Can you blame us? Really interesting points there. It's been a very serious morning. There have been lots and lots of serious issues, and thank you to so many people who've been in touch on them, and keep your comments coming in. I think it's time perhaps to make us smile. One man who does that is, of course, Tech Up Dave. He will be with us in a second, returning to the airwaves as he has on numerous occasions when I've done weekend shows previously, revealing whether, of course, well, a new biscuit has been launched, big issues, and also food waste experts settling the debate on putting chocolate bars in the fridge. All the big issues here on Talk in just a second. Stay with us.
The other main parties, Labour, the Tories, the Lib Dems, they didn't turn up. They bottled it like a bunch of cowardly chickens. And in so doing, they were greatly rude and discourteous to the Clacton constituents. And sure, not everyone's going to like a particular candidate, in this case, Nigel. And they were left with having to vote for a bin. And I just think it is a grave discourtesy. What it actually shows is that all the other parties, they threw themselves in the bin.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Stuart says, I was with one of my sons when the alarm sounded on his phone on Friday night, but I was super happy when it didn't sound on mine because I wouldn't take any messages from this hopeless shower in government right now, says Stuart. Thanks to the other person who sent me as well what a Faraday cage was, sent me a little picture of it, so I now know. And this is the beauty of this job. You learn things all the time, not least about the settling of an argument about whether chocolate bars should be put in the fridge. I have a lodger who moved in a few months ago. She puts chocolate in the fridge. I've been known to do it before, but should you do it? Well, one man who can answer this debate is, of course, the titan of technology, the Ayatollah of audio himself. No, that's Danny Morris. No, it's just Tech Up Dave, really. How are you doing, Dave?
Oh,
good to see you back on the air.
You're talking about me.
I am talking about you, and you're back. It's good to see you back on the show. How's life?
Good.
You've been all right? You've been moonlighting at TalkSport for a while?
Moonlighting down the far end, I'm afraid. But,
okay.
Everything's good. You?
I'm very well, yes. It's strange to be up this early in the morning, but there we are. Tell me about putting chocolate bars in the fridge. Do you do it?
Yes.
Why?
Because otherwise they melt. Have you noticed it's quite hot outside?
Is it? Oh,
just a little
pass me by. Tell us about this debate.
So, some people say you can't put chocolate in the fridge. Some people do.
Yes.
I put chocolate in the fridge, but apparently it changes the taste of it.
Right.
So, because apparently, this is quite scary, apparently chocolate is designed to melt between 30 and 32 degrees.
Right.
Which is why everybody's chocolate's gone terribly wrong.
There's a thing as well, if you put it in the fridge, sometimes it gets that kind of weird white aspect at the top of it, isn't there?
The private yacht chef, Barry Darcy.
I love how there's a private yacht chef involved with this, yeah.
He said when you're putting like cheap Easter eggs and stuff in the fridge, you get like this white film, but it's perfectly edible, so you don't have to worry too much about it.
Yeah, I once remember a friend of mine talked about, there's chocolate and then there's cheap chocolate, or as I just call it, chocolate. Really.
Oh, there's difference.
Well, there's definitely a difference, but I mean, I don't think we can be too snobby about it. Tell us about fly-gestives, because holidaymakers arriving home from abroad have only one thing on their mind: where to get biscuits and a brew.
Where to get biscuits, yes. Apparently, when people coming back from their holiday, the first thing they want to tuck into is a biscuit. Now, the question is, what biscuit are they after?
And
the answer is a chocolate digestive.
From your fridge?
Possibly not from my fridge. They're not going in my fridge.
They're not taking your... So that's what people want. They want a chocolate digestive.
Chocolate
chocolate digestives do exist in other countries.
Well, you say that. Chocolate exists in other countries. And when I went
Exclusive.
Big story. When I went to America, I got one of the purple packaged chocolate bars, but it's not the same.
No, American chocolate is dreadful. When I lived in America, chocolate's horrible because they use corn syrup in it. Also, milk tastes weird because they put all sorts of... I lived in America for about a year and a half, and they... The milk tastes really weird. It's just there's chemicals or like hormones or something in it. I promise you, there was a kind of farmer's market, those sort of left-wing, knit your own yogurt kind of things, and they had this sort of milk that it had been pasteurised. It was fine to drink, but it was basically directly from a farm and didn't have any additives or anything. It was a huge kind of like more than a pint. I think it's maybe a litre or whatever. I stood in the street and I drank the whole lot of it because I love milk. I love like a glass of milk in the evenings and stuff. Weirdo maybe, but lots of reasons. Yeah, but
milk and biscuits.
Milk and biscuits is the way forward. Speaking of biscuits, taking the biscuit. Biscoff unveiling a new Christmas 2026 biscuit launched in UK supermarkets shelves this week. You've given me a couple of custard creams, which is very kind of you this morning. Dave always brings in biscuits. He gets the Diet Coke from me. That's the deal. But tell us about what's happening.
Well, would you believe it's like 20 weeks to Christmas or something ridiculous?
That's crazy. It's the middle of August.
Sorry to mention the C word. But Biscoff...
Most people don't see... Anyway.
Biscoff have come along and already launched their Christmas biscuits. In fact, you can now see them on screen if you're watching on YouTube.
Oh, marvellous, OK.
And...
There's a reindeer there with his antlers on the Biscoff biscuits. So can you get these already or not?
They are now out. They are exclusively at the moment in the supermarket that Tess goes to.
Why is it not in my hand?
Well, because I didn't even know I was coming on until
there we are.
2 hours ago.
Yes, well, no weekend programme is complete without you.
They will be going into all the other supermarkets, though, in a couple of weeks'
This is
time.
the original unchocolate-coated Biscoff boxes, could be bought from Wednesday last week, exclusively at Tesco. Other supermarkets are available, they just don't have the biscuits. Shortly after, they'll be sold in all these other ones, as you say. I mean, when it comes to launching Christmas things, the Christmas things have been launched on the 12th of August. That's absurd.
That's insane, isn't it?
Absolutely absurd, yeah.
But, so go and get your Santa-shaped biscuits there, either the original caramelised sugar ones or chocolate-coated Biscoffs.
There we are. You'll be tasting them, will you? You'll be testing them out?
It would be rude not to.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think you should perhaps bring them in. And when you come off a flight, I mean, do you crave one of these? Do you crave a chocolate digestive? Do you know what I really miss when I'm abroad?
Chocolate for me.
Do you know what I really miss when I'm abroad? There is no international equivalent of the Daily Mail. There are lots of tabloids. There are, you know, in America,
Why
for example.
Why are you eating newspapers?
Well, I'm not eating the Daily Mail, but I just love it. I just think it's a great. I mean, I read the Times, I read the Sun, I read all the papers. That's my job. But there's nothing just quite like that paper.
Fair enough.
There we are. Anyway, Dave, good to see you. You're heading back behind the glass
I shall disappear.
Because Alex Phillips you're going to make her sound good.
I will endeavour to make her sound good, as I have tried to make you sound good this morning.
I'm failed in my case, but you always succeed in Alex's case, of course. That is Tech Up Dave, the man, the legend, was my Tech Up, was the Tech Up, sorry, for my weekend shows for many a moon, and still a great friend. Lots to discuss on Alex's show. She'll be here in a few minutes' time. Between 10 and 1. Is it 10 and 1, or is she leaving early today? No, 10 till 1 today. So Alex will be here in just a moment. You can